All right, now that we've got all five of us, welcome this morning, and we're going to start with the saluting the flag. All right, I'm going to let everyone know up at front here we have a lot of time sets that are going to collide. So we have no idea when public comment on items not on the agenda will be heard. So if you're listening at home and you want to make comments at that time, it's kind of, you're going to have to stand by because we do not know exactly when that's going to be. Assistant CAO Clower, are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Supervisor Bass. There is one item being pulled for discussion, and that's D15.
All right, and then I will also say that the 9:15 time set was going to be a challenge, so they were kind enough to reschedule till 11 o'clock. So if you were here for the item from Public Works that was going to be 9:15, we will be talking about it at 11 o'clock. So with that, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion that's been seconded. Nikki, I'm going to rely on you since my Zoom is not up yet. Are there any hands up for the consent calendar who wishes to speak?
No, Madam Chair, there are no hands up.
All right. All right, so there's no one online. Is there anyone here in the audience who wanted to speak on an item that was on the consent calendar? Yeah, come on up. If you're talking about something on a consent calendar, you can just stand at the side of the room and come after each other. There is a 3-minute time limit, and it's a strict 3 minutes. And welcome.
No problem. I don't need 3 minutes. I do need my reading glasses.
That always helps. Which one item are you here for?
On the Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week.
And there's a proclamation right beside you there, too.
Oh.
See, handy dandy. All right. Welcome.
Greetings and good morning. My name is Winchell Dillenbeck. I'm a McKinleyville resident and an Affordable Homeless Housing Alternatives Board member. I thank the Board of Supervisors for recognizing National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week. It has been almost 5 years since the Board of Supervisors passed a resolution for the Shelter Crisis Declaration. While there has been much progress made on dealing with the homeless population, I continue to urge you to support the establishment of safe parking programs.
Hold on a second. That's my fault. You can start over. No, someone was using my thing, and there was a video on it with Saturday Night Live. Don't ask me why. So,
oh, I didn't see it. You want me to start all
see,
over?
Kids, stuff like that happens every once in a while. Hi, welcome.
Oh, yeah. Does that mean I'm on Saturday Night Live?
That was like fun. Sorry about that.
My name is Winchell Dillenbeck. I'm a McKinleyville resident and an Affordable Homeless Housing Alternatives Board member. I wanted to thank you for recognizing the proclamation today. That homelessness is probably the hardest issue in the county to deal with, at least from my perspective. It's been almost 5 years since the Shelter Crisis Declaration. There's been a lot of progress made, a lot of efforts put forward by you, by a lot of other groups out there. I do want to continue to support the safe parking programs, which has made progress, I know, with the Planning Commission. Safe parking, which is starting to happen, and tiny house villages, legal campsites, which are imperative because the homeless crisis isn't going away. And I want to continue to urge you to support the Housing Trust Fund and Homeless Solutions Committee and provide the committee with some additional funding that is so sorely needed. There's only been one source of funding, and it is imperative that we try to keep this issue moving to reach those outside with more outreach efforts. So I applaud you for the efforts, and I continue to march on with your progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitchell, and thank you for your willingness to start over. And I believe you too. And welcome. You can come on up. And you can each have 3 minutes. You don't have to speak as a team but you can if you want.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl Lyons, and I'm a Child Welfare Services Program Manager with Humboldt County, and currently...
Can you get closer to the microphone? Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. My name is Cheryl Lyons, and I'm a Child Welfare Services Program Manager here in Humboldt County, and currently the Adoptions Manager. And we just wanted to thank you for this proclamation, making November Adoption Awareness Month.
Hi there, I'm Diana Williams. I am the Regional Manager of California State Adoptions, which is located in Arcata, and we wanted to thank you for your proclamation for Adoption Awareness Month today.
At this time, we have approximately 250 children, nearly 250 children and youth in foster care in Humboldt County, many of whom are going to need adoption at some point in their time in the dependency system. We do have adoption partners in the room today. There's a foster parent, an adoptive parent, foster and adoptive parent, an adoption assistance program wraparound provider in the room, as well as a number of our adoptions staff from child welfare are in the room this morning. Just wanted to thank them for their efforts as well. And due to a partnership that we have with the California Department of Social Services Adoptions Program in Arcata, we have finalized approximately 80 adoptions from the dependency system this year, which is more than we've ever done in a single year due to this partnership.
I really wanted to appreciate and honor all the adoptive families. There are, in the state of California, there are 11,879 foster youth that cannot reunify with their families and are in need of permanency. And so I just wanted to really appreciate and honor all the adoptive families. And I also wanted to give a big kudos out to our social workers and adoption specialists that have done a great job in providing education and support to these families and permanency for these foster youth.
Thank you.
Okay, and there may be a question for you. Don't walk out yet. I saw Supervisor Bushnell, but I wanted to finish public comment, so don't go too far. I mean, you can go away from the microphone. Sorry about that. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you sit up there. Anyone else in the audience care to comment on items on the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, we'll go back to the board. Supervisor Bushnell.
I just wanted to say thank you to all the staff that helps coordinate these programs, and to all the families willing, and that, you know, there are many, many children waiting, and it is a very rewarding to help to be an adoptive parent, and for the children. It's just an amazing adventure. So thank you.
All right. Any other comments from supervisors on any of the consent calendar items? Supervisor Wilson?
I just want to echo the heartfelt thanks to the staff and the parents and the nonprofits and the families and everybody else that's been working with relationship to our foster care system. I know some folks in my life have definitely benefited from this, and also I know, and not just folks that, you know, have been in through the adoption system, but actually are advocates and within, you know, receiving young people into their homes, and I wanted to say that this is really important, a really important work, and I really appreciate it. And it's not easy. I just want to acknowledge like how bumpy and difficult and full of humans it is. And acknowledge that there's some real hardships in that space, and there's some joy in there too. And I just want you to all know that we all really appreciate the work you do. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Are we ready to vote? And Nikki, can we have a roll call vote since I'm not about to open my computer right now? I don't know.
All right. Hold on a second. I had a little technical difficulty. I know that's odd.
As long as it's not just me, we're good.
No. Okay, here we go. Supervisor Bohn.
Yeah.
Supervisor Bushnell,
Yes.
Supervisor Wilson,
Yes.
Supervisor Bass,
Yes.
and Supervisor Madrone.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
All right, so now we're going to our 9:05 time set, so we're a little bit late, but we kind of expected that. This item comes to us from Supervisor Madrone, and it's a presentation by the McKinleyville High School Leadership and Government students. I did offer Supervisor Madrone the opportunity, but he said you were okay with me being... Carry on. Yes, so welcome. You may go ahead.
Great. Good morning, supervisors. Thanks so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here with McKinleyville High Panthers. We have some juniors and seniors. And as you've seen, different schools choose to share information with you in a little bit different ways. So today, the students have put together a really awesome Google slideshow. And I believe approximately 10, maybe 10 students have an individual slide sharing with you their goals and what they learned at Mac High and some plans for after high school. And so what we're going to do is have those students come up in turn and introduce themselves when their slide comes up. And I also wanted to introduce and thank Ann Sahlberg. Ann is one of the counselors at McKinleyville High School, and so she's our official chaperone today. And as you know, I think you saw our agenda, but this is our All About Civics Day because it is Election Day. So after we are here, we'll go over to the elections office. They'll get a tour of election office operations. Then we'll go to Congressman Huffman's office and meet with John Driscoll. He always gives out little mini versions of the small version of the Constitution, so that's sort of cool. And then after that, we'll go to City Hall and have pizza lunch with Mayor Seaman and city staff. So a great day about learning about government and civics. And are we good on the technology there?
Would you like somebody to have the clicker? Do you want me to run it? How do you?
Why don't you run it, I think, and then students, go ahead if you guys can line up here, and then, I don't know if we have an order, but we'll just figure it out as we go. So thanks again.
Perfect.
Come on up.
Well, Jim's leaving too.
You guys just let me know when to advance. So, all right.
Let's see if I can figure out how to work this. Good morning, supervisors. My name is Vaedra Crocker. I'm a senior at McKinleyville High School. I am the Key Club president, the Teen Literacy Council vice president, the Drama Club treasurer, the Diversity Club associated student body rep, and part of our equity team, which, yeah, I'm very busy. My goals currently are to get accepted to a University of California. Currently, University of California, San Diego is really appealing to me, but it's so hot down there. So who knows? And I want to major in political science, which is why this opportunity is so cool to me, because learning about like local government isn't something that we've gotten the opportunity to do yet, and it's just so cool seeing it in front of me, especially since I'm not quite sure what I want to do with that degree yet. So opportunities like this is really cool. And also other ways that Mac High has helped me are they have helped me with college application workshops, because I feel like I would be a lot more lost if I didn't have some sort of like person pushing me along and being like, here's what you need to do. And the AP government class, which is, it's so cool in that class. Every day I wake up and I'm like, I wish I had AP Gov today, when I don't. And those pictures, the one of me looking threateningly at the camera is our haunted house that we did for Drama Club recently, which our drama department is so cool, and it's just so fun participating in that. And then the one on the bottom is our Key Club hosted a dog toy making session where we are going to donate all the dog toys to our local shelters. And it's just really cool being able to give back to my community in that way. Thank you for your time.
Yes. Thank you. All right, who's next?
Hello, supervisors. It is a pleasure and a privilege to meet all of you. My name is Elise Henson. I'm a senior. I'm the president of Diversity Club, the treasurer of Key Club, and I'm also in the equity team and drama club. I'm in a couple other clubs, but I felt that the drama club one was important to mention because that is a big part of my life. My goals are to get into a UC, possibly major in political science or geology. This is a part of me discovering which one I would prefer to do. And then hopefully law or maybe paleontology. I'm looking into that more. MHS has really helped me properly plan my future. Again, like Madrone said, without the time set aside to apply to colleges and the guidance I get from counselors, I would not be able to have planned any of this that I have. They also give me a great opportunity to study under amazing and very understanding teachers. I've had a lot of difficulties during the school year and past school years, and I really just have appreciated the MHS teachers for being very understanding of those difficulties. Not a lot of these pictures are from school things because I also like to take threatening pictures like Madrone, and I didn't want to subject you all to that. But the one in the top left corner is from an Ashland trip that I was able to go to for drama club, which was very fortunate and was a very lovely experience. The one directly in the middle where I'm looking a little bit disgusted at the camera is from set construction for our haunted experience at school. And the bottom two are just pictures of me. So that's what I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Elise.
Hi, thank you for having me here. My name is Scarlett Robinson. I'm also a senior. I'm the Teen Literacy Council president. I'm part of the drama club, and I'm head of the drama technical department, so I do all the lights and sound. I'm the senior class treasurer, and I'm the Sir Optimus Club historian, so also pretty busy. I also want to attend UC. Right now, UC Berkeley is high on my list, and I really want to major in English. Not sure really what I want to do with that major yet, but law and social justice definitely look promising for me. So I'm very excited to be here and see all of this and how that plays into it. We got to look in a courtroom earlier, and that was really cool. And McKinleyville High School has helped me a lot, definitely by allowing me to become an active part of improving the community. Teen Literacy Council has played a big role in that. I got, along with Phaedra, this book called Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism in You, into our curriculum, which was really great, a way of getting more modern anti-racist literature into the school system here and educating my fellow peers. And just having a safe space for me to express myself, especially with drama, that has been great. I started off my high school experience part of sports and such that my parents were really excited for me to do, but I wasn't that excited about, and I was able to get into drama club and find that whole world and find that that fit me a lot better and really find a way to express myself, and I'm really thankful for that opportunity, and I thank you for having me here today.
Thank you, Scarlett.
Good morning, supervisors. I hope you're doing well today. I'm Rebecca Barnett, a senior at McKinleyville High School. I am the senior class president as well. I participate in volleyball and softball, and I'm also the coordinator of peer tutoring, a new program that we have started at McKinleyville High School where students tutor other students. My goals are to get accepted into a four-year university somewhere in California, not totally sure yet, and major in business and marketing or psychology. MHS has helped me realize my goals through the mentorship program, which I'm also in right now. It's an 8-week program that kind of lets students go around the community and tour and get to know about local businesses and opportunities that you can do after high school. AP classes also have pushed me to become the best I can. It makes me work harder because taking the extra time to work in the hard classes. And MHS is just a very safe community. It makes me feel comfortable to be who I am and represent all the things that I like to represent. And the top picture is me playing volleyball in one of our NCS games last year. And then the bottom picture is our homecoming, our float. Last year we did Hay Day, and I'm the little chicken on the bottom. Yes, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Rebecca.
Hi guys, my name is Payne Harvin. I'm also a senior at McKinneyville High School. I participate in football and basketball, also a senior class rep. Some of my goals I want to do, I want to go to a four-year college, mostly in California, I'm not sure though yet. And then I want to like do business, maybe even engineering. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do in college yet. But McKinneyville High School has helped me out a lot because I'm a transfer there last year. I think around this time, so it's almost been a year. They've been how would I say this? Have like opened me crap. Why can't I say this? They've been open-handed and like welcomed me into their school. Like I feel very at home when I'm there now. So.
Where'd you transfer from?
I transferred from Eureka.
Okay.
I moved there.
I thought so.
Yeah, transferred there from Eureka. The gas was just so much, so I was like, I'm not gonna make that commute to Eureka anymore. It's way too far. Gas was like $7 a gallon, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna stay here at McKinleyville. And it's been the right decision. I really liked it a lot. And then the pictures up there, you can see half my body because the other half is gone somehow. But there's me playing football. We are doing pretty good this year. We're 5-1 league, and we got our first playoff game this weekend against Willits. So it's gonna be a tough one. Yeah, home game. It's gonna be a tough one. We lost to them in the preseason 3-0, so it's going to be a good one. And then the bottom picture is me playing basketball. I was able to go to Oregon, the Oregon camp, and we got to meet a lot of the coaches, play on the court. It was a really fun experience up there. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chloe Alves. I'm a senior at McKinleyville High. I play volleyball there. I've had 3 years on varsity, and I do the work experience class. So every other day I get an extra 2 hours to go to work, and I also get graded for that. My goals is next year I'm going to move to Oahu. I have family there. I'm pretty excited, and I'm going to pursue fertility nursing and eventually become an IVF doctor. I've been able to have a flexible schedule, like work experience, and been provided resources that have helped me succeed. The top picture is me playing volleyball this recent season, and the bottom picture is me at homecoming with my baby cousin. He's an IVF baby, so that's where my inspiration comes from. Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe.
Hi, my name is Tyler Tulmau. I am a junior here at McKinleyville High. This is my first year attending this school. I transferred from Eureka, but I was there for a month. I originally came from South California. It's pretty interesting down there, very hot. My goals is to just go to college somewhere in California since my dad, he ended up retiring from the military, and it will be easier if I just stay here. MHS helped me realize my goals by having a supportive counseling team. Because my counselor, Mrs. Salberg, she ended up convincing me to join 2 honors classes when I wasn't really confident in myself. And the AP classes are also really helpful too. And that's all.
Thank you, Tyler.
Hi, I'm Liz Mingle. I'm a junior at McKinleyville High, and I'm the junior class president, the Associated Student Body vice president, the Science Club president, the Interact Club vice president, and I'm a member of S Club. I also participate in varsity soccer, basketball, and softball. And most of my long-term goals are pretty up in the air, seeing as it's still my junior year, but I know I want to go to a four-year university and to be valedictorian of my class. MHS has helped me by having amazing teachers and administration, and counseling staff have been amazing too, and offering a lot of advanced classes. It's a pretty small school, so typically you don't have as many opportunities, but I've had plenty, and my advanced classes have really helped me to realize my goals. And then the top picture is me playing soccer, and I thought that was pretty fitting because for 10 months out of the year, whatever sport I'm in pretty much consumes my life. So I thought that would work. And we're actually doing pretty well this season. We're in the NCS playoffs as well, and we're going to the semifinals tomorrow against Eureka. And then the other picture is me dressed as Pitbull for our homecoming float this year, which was really fun. And so I included a Pitbull quote because Pitbull is great. And then, of course, a Taylor Swift quote because she just dropped her new album. Thank you.
Liz?
Thank you, Liz.
Are you part of the Eureka Mingle family?
I was wondering the same.
So is
Okay.
Russ your grandpa? Yeah. Really? Good guy. Good guy. I recognize all your names. I'll just call it out when I get it.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Lelia Maynor. I'm a junior at McKinleyville High. I am our school's student board representative. So I go to the board meetings and I represent the youth's interests to the board. I'm a United Nations youth delegate. So next year in March, I will be attending the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women in New York. I am a Girl Scout regional and national delegate. And I do drama and Sir Optimus Club. For the United Nations thing, the review theme is challenges that face rural women, which is why I'm doing it. I'm going so I can learn how to best represent like the people I represent and how to best serve them. My goals are to study abroad with the State Department and learn a critical language, and I would like to establish a school newspaper. For the past couple of months, I've been working with Cal Matters, which is a nonprofit news organization that covers California. And I've been working with them on their youth journalism initiative to establish a school paper, McKinleyville. We haven't had one in like over a decade, so we've been working on that. Mac High has really helped me realize my goals by giving me a really amazing and very open platform to advocate for other students, and it's helped me find some really amazing like extra educational programs. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Squena koi, I queen nick now, Pachomio Felice, Mail Machal, Pectar, Witch Poos, Cutamine, Nate check well, Elsie Felice, Nape set well, Vincent Felice, Nawe well, Vincent Felice. Hello, my name is Pachomio Felice. I'm a junior from Mac High, and I am a member of the Yurok, Karuk, and Chumash tribes. As I was saying, I am the Native American Club Vice President, and we have been very active on campus with holding a craft sale last year. We were able to get in around $2,000 for the club. We're able to do college tours and use that money to help a lot. Like even of this month, for Native American Heritage Month, we made a calendar, we're putting signs up, and we have a dance demo too. We're gonna show up. I'm also a member of the equity leaders on the AMHS campus. So we're the ones that are able to put things into motion. We set up a racial reporting system last year, like able to like scan a QR code and report someone. I think it's all anonymous. So we were able to set that up. We also did the Black Life History Month calendar, the Hispanic calendar, and the Native American calendar. So we have a lot of hats we wear. I play football, and as Peyton was saying, we did fairly good this year, going 5-1 in league. So we did win for the first time since the 1990s. We won the championship for the Little Four, and I think that's really cool, being since the 1990s, winning that. And I also participate in track and field too, because it's just a fun thing to do. My goals is to first off, I want to get above a 4.0 for my entire high school career. Then I want to go to UC Davis and study criminal law and get my BA in that, and go to the academy, become a tribal cop to work on the issues of MMIW and other issues impacting Native communities. And like, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. That's when I finish up my slide real quick. First, MHS led me to help realize my goals. It led me to meet a lot of amazing people on campus, and a lot of people that are very much supportive of everything we do on campus, like Ms. Sahlberg helping us, Native American Club out, all the students. I only seen positiveness from the students when it comes to Native issues. There is a slight amount of ignorance, but we can fix that. And everyone's been open to learning and understanding. I also really loved too, because I'm able to make the Native community on campus a lot stronger, because we do have a substantial amount of Native Americans I think it is one of the highest populations, Native Americans, outside of Hoopa. And all of this, it made me the leader that I am today, because I was chosen to go to a youth leadership conference over in West Virginia in DC, and that really opened my eyes to see the issues surrounding a lot of other Native nations. And you can see in the photos right there, the one to the top left, that's me during one of my jobs through our tribe, and that's us cruising the Klamath River on a dugout canoe. The canoe is called Osh-Wayach, which means the people's boat, and that's us paddling down the Klamath River. And to the right, that's me and my uncle. I was able to impact history with changing the name from Patrick's Point to Sumeg, the name it always supposed to be. I think it's very fitting the name is Sumeg, because what Sumeg means is has been, is, and always will be, is what Sumeg means. And I think that's really shows how, like, even though it's called Patrick's Point, it is Sumeg. It will always be Sumeg. And me and my uncle were able to help out and make that sign and change it. And to the bottom, to the one on the bottom, that's me and a bunch of kids from MHS. That's all, like, around half of Native Americans from MHS going on to a kayak tour to Dalawat Island with the We Are tribe helping us. And we had a speech from Ted Hernandez talking to us, and we were able to go and paddle around the bay, which is really cool with the Kibbe family, and that was really fun. And the quote I have is, "The land is sacred. These words are at the very core of your being. This land is our mother. The river is our blood. Take our land away, and we die. That is, the Indian in us dies." And I think that quote really resonates to, like, everyone is saying how, like, once you lose the land, once you lose your bearings to the ground, you lose what you are as a person. And sorry, I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I want to touch back on what I said about the MMIW and the police work and stuff. And I just want to say is you guys are doing good work, but I think, like, we do have a very big issue on the reservation when it comes to opiate overdoses. We have the highest percentage of any race when it comes to opiate usage and overdoses. And MMIW rate is out of control with the amount of missing people and the amount of things that happen. And it just, depending on, like, what you guys can do to help support and have, like, a better communication with the tribal nations. Okay, thank you. Wakla, wakla.
All right, thank you. Welcome.
All right, my name is Aiden Monk. I am a senior at MHS, and I just do. I'm not part of any clubs or anything, but I just do the work experience class, allowing me to work and get credits for it for college. I like working on my own projects. One of them being the boat, which has recently been completed, and then doing repairs on my own car. My goals are to study engineering in college. I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to go and what exact field. MHS has helped me by giving me resources to be able to tinker with stuff in all of the CTE classes, auto shop allowing me to work on gas engines and figure out if I want to do that as a job. The mentorship program also is helping me figure out what field I might want to go into exactly. I think that's about it.
Thank you, Aiden.
We would also like to give a big thank you to Mr. Ritter for helping us be here today and providing us the mentorship program, and congratulating him on his retirement. Thank you.
So Jim, this is your last time and my last time.
It's pretty fun. We might figure out the way to come back.
You should know.
And
Sorry.
I've been lucky enough to work with Jim on our campus. I'm Ann Solberg from McKinleyville High School, English teacher and now counselor. But this last slide, I just wanted to put in here because these are some of our graduates in the last 20 years, how long I've been on that campus. And when I look at all of these students, I'm thinking they are the next gen that we will have when we share with 8th grades, families and people like that. But we have a great legacy up at our high school, and we're so glad that Jim could set this up and that you had time to host us today. So thank you.
All right, thank you. So now this comes a time where we give you a little spiel on what we do up here. I know we're short on time, so normally we'll go to the 5 supervisors and sometimes staff, but I've been requested by some staff members not to bug you guys this time, so we're just going to make it quicker by going with the 5 supervisors. And I will start with Supervisor Bushnell.
Good morning. I really liked your guys' presentation. I really liked the energy, lots of energy. I hope that your senior years are absolutely amazing, and good luck in your future endeavors. I am a Humboldt County Supervisor for the 2nd District, which is from Fortuna south to the Humboldt-Mendocino border, east and west. I'm a 4th-generation Southern Humboldt person, grew up in a ranching and cattle family. New to government, I was elected a year and a half ago. Never ever thought I would do anything like this. I'm private sector. I'm enjoying learning and being able to help represent my constituents and move the county along. So thanks for the presentation.
Supervisor Bohn.
Wow, when I was a senior, all I wanted to figure out was what kind of beer I wanted to drink. You guys have some pretty lofty goals. Good job. Congratulations, you guys, on your sport team this year. All of you, the volleyball, soccer, everybody. You guys have all done really well, so that's good to see. I'm the 1st district, which is like a little bit of Eureka, down to Fortuna, a little bit of Fortuna, down to Riadale, past Riadale, and down out to Honeydew and Ferndale and the Wildcats, and all those places. So been around McKinleyville a lot, was pretty instrumental in helping build Hiller Park. After I did Redwood Field, so I helped them get that completion. I really like what you kids delivered today. A lot of kids in drama, which is good. So keep up the energy. Keep up the energy. Tribal police, very much needed. Good job. Don't call them cops, though. They like police. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, keep up the good work, all of you. Thank you.
All right, I think I'll just keep going this way if that's all right with you guys. So I'm Virginia Bass. I'm a 4th District Supervisor, which basically covers the majority of Eureka and Myrtletown and then part of the peninsula. Yeah, you guys were the most energized. If this has had to be the last presentation like this I've seen in all these years, I think you guys topped every one I've ever seen before. It was awesome. Lots of energy, lots of direction that people have. Yeah, I ended up in politics accidentally. My family had a restaurant, and that's what I did for 31 years. So maybe I should have tried political science. Maybe I would have changed my mind. But I love it. You know, it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to sit up here and make decisions that make a difference in people's lives. Yeah, and as chair. Basically, my job is to try to, I guess you'd say, orchestrate the meetings. Sometimes it doesn't go so well. Sometimes it goes really well. But we have a good time doing it. Some serious work gets done here. And this board, a few weeks ago, we had an 11-hour meeting. And last week was a 10-hour meeting. But I'll have to say, some of the longer ones have been some of our best. I think we have learned to do really good work together. And that's hard when you have 5 different people representing 5 different areas of the county with very, very different beliefs sometime, and that's how you learn to work with people. And I think all of you represent that type of personality that could really be awesome in this job, or a good job like it. So, Supervisor Wilson.
Wow, thanks guys for coming. I want to say that this is sort of the energy. You kind of feed us a bit, I have to say, with this energy. Not because this is why we do local government, really, is in the service of the people that are in our local communities. And when we get to see a little slice of young adults coming with their experience and aspirations, this is why we create and work on trying to make these communities better all the time. And I want to applaud Jim and folks like him who, I have to say, I have a daughter who's in college right now, and one of the things that her experience in living in this community that you guys are experiencing, that a lot of young people do not have, is that connectivity at that very, what some call pedestrian level. Like, you're right in it, you're meeting the people who are in the decision-making roles, you're meeting the people that are in the function of government. A lot of folks are very disconnected from that through their education system, and you guys are really fortunate to see that. And you'll see that, because local government is actually where you make the most difference in your community. I mean, we get all tied up in national politics. But frankly, order of magnitude more, you have orders of magnitude more influence in your local governments and what happens around you in local elections and your interface with people who are making these decisions. It's the construct of everything that's around you, where the streets are, how the things function, how the schools roll, all that stuff tangentially has something to do with federal and state government, but it almost exclusively has to do with your local governance. And so it's really important they stay connected. And I'm going to say none of us had political science degrees. That doesn't mean doesn't mean that you can't move in this direction with a political science degree. I'm just saying that it doesn't have to be that way. I'm an engineering grad and had an engineering practice for some time, and public service really just intrigued me in a way that is very fulfilling and super exciting, although extremely daunting. So I'm in the 3rd district, which is Arcata, Blue Lake, and kind of the North Bay area of the county. And I say this job basically has 3 parts, which is the first is sort of helping to run this local governance, which is the county is 58 counties. It's basically an arm of the state. We run all of the social programs and all those other things and the roads and all that other stuff outside the cities. Then there's the part where we represent the county externally to the state and federal governments and other associations to try and connect us and bring resources in. And then there's basically the customer service end of our job, which is a big part of our job, which is, hey, I got a pothole over here, or I have an argument with my neighbor over there, whatever it is we're doing with relationship to those sorts of things. In any case, I just really appreciate you guys being here, and keep staying involved in your local governments no matter where you end up, even in your college.
And now for your supervisor.
Excuse me. Good to see you all. You all really brought a lot of excitement to the room today. Every one of you is incredibly well-spoken. You really showed your confidence in what you are, what you're doing. I think that showed incredibly well, and you're obviously all extremely motivated in terms of where you're at right now and where you're hoping your future may take you. And it's often not so clear. You know, you find something that you really love to do and you start doing it, and 20 years later you look back and go, wow, how did I get on that path? How did that begin? And it began, you know, with you having a dream, with you having some motivation towards trying to do something. There's that old adage that if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? And I think you all show that you're following your dreams. You know, what I heard from you in regards to what you want to do with your futures absolutely seems to tie back into what you're dreaming for yourself to become. So I encourage you to follow those dreams and make life everything you ever wanted it to be. We're lucky to live in such a beautiful place here, Humboldt County. But there are absolutely plenty of problems that we're all struggling with and working with. And as a board, we deal with those things every day, every week. But so do you, so do all of us in our families, in our communities. McKinleyville's at an interesting crossroads. It's really a city at this point. I think you probably would all agree. And yet it's unincorporated, which is part of the whole political process. So we'll see whether or not McKinleyville becomes incorporated or not, but there's a lot of really exciting things happening in town. You know, in many ways, McKinleyville's sort of the envy of a lot of other communities in Humboldt, because you have the Hammond Trail. You have all these wonderful trails and parks, and there's more of those to come. There's a lot of work going on to try and plan a town center behind Safeway, back out in the big fields out there, while also preserving those wetlands and the spruce forest and the open space. And, you know, it's often what we end up doing in government is trying to find this balance between protecting the environment while also creating jobs and housing, which is a very desperate need that we have. So a lot to get involved with just in your own town, as well as in your own high school. So I encourage you all to follow your dreams and make life exactly what you hoped it would be. And congratulations, Jim, on your retirement. And thank you to you and all the teachers and counselors at McKinleyville High and all over the county for all the work that you do. As heard today, you make a huge part to these students' lives, and in terms of encouraging them, providing them support, and direction to actually follow up and make life exactly what you hoped it might be. So thank you for coming and visiting with us. Very much appreciate it.
All right. Yes, Jim. Wait, do you want us to go to public comment too?
Sure.
Okay, hold on
I just
a moment.
wanted to thank you guys again, but while we were sharing, we were sending a few photos to the high school, and Supervisor Madrone, the AP government teacher, many of these are in their class, would love to have you as a guest as a Q&A. Thank you.
All right, so we will go to public comment. Nikki, on my little Zoom screen, is there anyone hands up?
No, Madam Chair, there's no hands up.
All right. We'll come to back to the board. Well, the audience, anyone else here want to make a comment? All right, no, we'll go back to the board and just need a motion to approve the presentation or accept.
I'll make a motion that we accept this presentation.
Second.
In the name of Leslie Nope.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, we've never turned down a presentation after we've gotten it. I still don't understand why we do this, but all right. So, Nikki?
Do roll call?
Yes, please.
Okay, Supervisor Madrone.
Yes.
Supervisor Bass.
Yes.
Supervisor Wilson.
Yeah.
Supervisor Bushnell.
Yes.
And Supervisor Bohn. 10-4. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
All right, so thank you very much. And now we'll move on to the next item, a little bit late for the 9:30 time set. Is that correct? And this comes to us from the CAO's office and is regarding fire service tax exchange agreement proposals. I will say we did receive a lot of emails, so anyone who sent one, we have been able to read it. And may I turn it over to you?
Yes, thank you, Chair Bass and members of the board. We have on Zoom today Sean Quincy, our Deputy CAO, and Sibel Emmett from Public Works Natural Resources, who will be presenting this item.
All right, Nikki, are they going to pop up on the screen there?
All right. Good morning, Chair Bass and members of the board. Apologize for any ambient noise. I'm actually out of town, out of conference here. But very quickly, by way of introduction, for this item, a collaborative group made up of members of county staff, your board, the Humboldt County Fire Chiefs Association, and the local agency Formation Commission worked several years ago on a report that outlined local service gaps and funding options for areas located outside the boundaries of any local fire service related district. In 2019, the board adopted criteria for a property tax revenue sharing exchange agreement for fire service providers willing to annex those areas or form districts within them. Essentially, if a local fire service provider demonstrates that it can provide service to those out-of-district areas that meets the established criteria and responsibly administers public funds, then the county would be willing to share a portion of property taxes with them. Today, we are discussing 2 fire service providers that are seeking to enter into such an agreement. And as Assistant CAO Power said, we have Sibel Emmett, along with a few others here to discuss specifics of this proposal.
All right. Sibel?
I realized when I started sharing my screen with the presentation, I couldn't find my tools, but I would like to share a presentation with you today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And do you see a cover page for a presentation on the screen?
Yes.
Fire Services Tax Exchange Agreement Proposals?
Yes.
Could someone, Sean, could you confirm that that's what's showing on the screen?
Yes, that's on the screen.
Excellent. Okay. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Sibel Emmett. I'm the Natural Resources Planning Manager for Public Works. I'm also the Public Works Director's designee on the Humboldt County Fire Safe Council. That's a non-voting seat. And I'm also a grant-funded coordinator of the Humboldt County Fire Safe Council. And I'd like to point out that this item represents, it has a nexus with the Humboldt County Community Wildfire Protection Plan, the Fire Protection Action Plan, the goal for supporting fire protection services. And also that the planning associated with this and funding for these departments to submit proposals to LAFCO was provided by the Fire Chiefs Association through their annual Measure Z grant. And I'm going to be presenting some supplemental information on behalf of that collaborative group that Sean was talking about. So I'm going to go to the next slide. If you approve the recommendations from staff today, it will allow the Garberville Fire Protection District to expand their jurisdictional boundaries to include their full response area, which is much bigger than their current district, and I have some maps to demonstrate that. And it will allow the Salmon Creek Volunteer Fire Department to become a fire protection district, which is a local government that provides fire services on the structural and community level. And those actions will allow those departments to sustain and improve the quality of local fire and rescue services for our citizens in Humboldt County. This is just a review from that 2019 board report that Sean mentioned. It's just reviewing that there's significant development in populated areas that are not within the boundaries of any local agency that's responsible for structural fire protection services. And there is actually no agency that's legally responsible for those services in those areas. And there are departments that are providing those services on a goodwill basis, supported by the taxes or revenue sources that are generated within their jurisdictional areas. And that this is not an easy problem to solve. It's been taking years and years, and it's kind of a step-by-step process. It's often very complicated and takes quite a few different people with different skill sets to move it forward. This is just a review of our target area for the Garberville and Salmon Creek, Southern Humboldt zone of the county. This is just illustrating the communities and the public land and the private land. And then the next slide shows you where sort of a representation of where development is within that context. And then this slide shows you our current fire service provision. The green is good. The green are the fire protection districts that are actually authorized and supported to provide services within those boundaries. And I don't know if you can see my cursor, but I'm sort of circling the Teensy Garberville Fire Protection District here. That's green, and this very large red area that's very populated, Bembo and up Alder Point Road and out Bryceland, Old Bryceland Road. That's the subject of their proposal. And then up here, this big yellow chunk is Salmon Creek, which is a volunteer fire company, and proposing to become a district. And then they will turn green like Bryceland below them, which has been created into a district through this initiative in the past. And then Fruitland Ridge is also one of the newer districts that were supported by this Chiefs Association and CWPP initiative. And in 2019, as Sean outlined, your board did approve a funding allocation strategy, and you created an ad hoc committee. And the current members of those committee are Supervisors Bushnell and Madrone. Thank you very much for all of your guidance throughout this process. And then Supervisor Wilson has been a past member who's also been very supportive and thoughtful in his guidance. During that meeting, tax exchange agreement offers were approved if certain expectations could be met by those fire departments. And those are outlined in detail from that agenda item in your attachment 1. And the objective was to incentivize bringing all of those large red and yellow areas into the jurisdiction of a fire-related district, while at the same time diversifying revenue sources and encourage strategic planning for sustainable fire services. So that these departments weren't relying on one revenue source and that they were going to be good stewards of public funds. So, excuse me, starting with Garberville, these 4 steps sort of outline the expectations that your board provided in order to receive certain offers. And Garberville was working towards offer 1, which is outlined in your staff report. And in order to do that, they needed to establish some new revenue sources, and they are moving forward with a new special tax which will be voted on by registered voters within the focus area in March of 2023. And if it's successful, it will generate approximately $145,000 annually to support and sustain their services. And they're also pursuing a consolidation with the Sproul Creek Volunteer Fire Company. And that will support another station. And through this effort, they will also, over time, develop another fire station in the Benbow area. So then they will have a good coverage of their whole large district. And annexing realistic out-of-district response area, they certainly are doing that in a very major way with bringing in 36,000 acres of their current goodwill response area. Oops, let me just go back one. And then they are making a commitment to plan for the future, and they're making improvements to their budgeting, accounting, reporting, and strategic planning. And there's a lot of detail in that in a proposal that they provided to you related to this tax exchange agreement, and that's your attachment too. And then as part of the annexation proposal to LAFCO, they provided a plan of service and a detailed application, and the LAFCO commissioners deemed that they were capable of providing this service and approved that application pending your approval of this agreement, as well as the special tax in March. So this is just, I'm just gonna go through a few more detailed maps. You can see Garberville Fire Protection District here and the community all around that doesn't have any dedicated fire service. This is their close-up of their goodwill response area, which is red, and that shows you the Sproul Creek area where there'll be a station, and then Benbow where there'll be another station if this is successful. And this is what the district will look like if this whole initiative is successful. And then Salmon Creek is currently a fire company that does not have a jurisdictional boundary, and they're going for offer 5, which is the only offer your board created for this type of volunteer fire company. And they are also establishing new revenue sources. They cover a much more dispersed rural area and have less call volume than Garberville, but they are nonetheless very important to their community, and their special tax will generate between $20,000 to $25,000 annually if it's successful in March. And then they did pursue reorganization, and our technical team worked with them to reach out to neighboring fire service providers. But they made due diligence, but there were no opportunities for feasibly doing that at this time, although they remain open to that moving forward into the future. And they certainly are establishing a district based on their realistic boundary. It's where they're called to provide services by the CAL FIRE Dispatch Center, and it's what their community considers their response area. And they are making a commitment to plan for the future, which is detailed in attachment 3, which is their proposal, or attachment 5, which is their proposal to you related to your expectations. And this is a large map of their service area, and you can see in context with Miranda and Myers Flat in the parks, and they abut existing districts, Bryceland, Telegraph Ridge. So we're closing the gaps, and you'll see that it doesn't include public lands. So that's a realistic boundary. And then in closing, just a reminder that back in 2019, we estimated that if all the fire departments and districts took you up on your offers, the cumulative impact on the general fund could be close to $460,000. And then the combined financial impact of Rio Del, who already took you up on one of these offers, and then this request today will be less than $254,000. And so we still have more to go before we need to regroup and come back to you and say that we are going above what we originally estimated, or need to regroup around that. And then there is also a note just that the general fund impacts could also be offset because per California state law, you can't subdivide properties that aren't in a fire protection district, and there are many properties that are developable under our county general plan that could be developed, and if they're in a district that could move forward per the normal process. So I do have, there are members of the fire departments from Salmon Creek and Garberville here. Some of the other technical team members are here on a panel. If you have questions, I'll complete the presentation portion of this and turn it back over to Sean or you for questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. So any questions at this time from any of the supervisors? No? Supervisor Bohn? Supervisor, nobody wants to say anything. Okay. We can go to public comment. I mean, there's no hands up yet, so there's one hand up. And I do want to let me tell everyone who might be listening at home, we are still not on public comment on items that are not on the agenda. I see a couple names or numbers that I recognize. We probably won't be able to get to that until later. If lucky, maybe 10:45, but I'm not guaranteeing it, so. Yes, Supervisor Bushnell, then Bohn.
So thank you. I would, I support this wholeheartedly for this Southern Humboldt community. I would appreciate the board's support as well. Garberville Fire currently responds to their the outside of their district routinely, and it really, the areas that they're going to annex in just are really our community, that community's. Salmon Creek as well, that's a very small community up there, very dependent on their fire departments. I do want to say also that both of these fire departments and companies are really the hubs of their communities, and we as a small towns in Salmon Creek and Garberville just are very dependent on them and their services. Having funding will drastically change the area and what can happen down there as far as fire services. So I'm very supportive of this item.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, cool. And, all right, we'll go to those. I'm actually going to, thank you, Supervisor Bushnell. Sorry about that. I'm going to go to 3053 first. I'm going to go to the ones that I know most likely are calling on this item. So 3053. I think that's Thomas. Press *6, then mute.
Good morning, Thomas Mulder here. I just want to confirm you can hear me.
Yes, Thomas.
So I'm calling in as a property owner in the Bimbo area that would be affected by this in a positive way. I'm in support of the motion on the table. I'm in support of the board supporting people's rights as property owners. There's one member of the board that may call it sprawl, but all the rest of the board members, I do believe they support people's rights to form these districts, tax themselves, and develop those parcels for prosperity and rural living and all those great things that clean air and nature provide. So please support the motion on the table. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Thomas. And now we'll go to 2042. Press *6 and mute. For those of you who have your hand up, turn the volume off on your video feed because you might be getting a time delay. I think that's what's happening. So listen to the phone and not the video. 2042, try one more time, *6 to unmute. All right, well, let's go to 8586. And if that's you, press *6 to unmute if you wish to comment on this item.
Good day. My name is Rio Anderson. I'm a Bembo resident, and I just want to say thank you for considering this. This is a big milestone for our community, and my fire insurance went so sky high last year that it was almost unaffordable, but this is going to really help with fire insurance, and like Thomas said, fire districts are a hub of this culture. And so it really brings us together as a community. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Rio. And then we're going to go 2042. One more time, we'll give that a try. Press *6 and mute. There you go. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Hello?
Hello, we hear you.
Yeah, this is John Porter calling from Benbow Inn.
Okay, welcome, John.
And I strongly support this motion, and we hope that you all pass it. And what Rio said about insurance, I can just tell you, we own the two largest commercial businesses in Benbow Valley, the Benbow Historic Inn and the buildings across the street from the inn. And we own the Benbow KOA, 50 acres of land with the golf course. And just to give you an idea of our fire insurance last year, because the insurance companies put us in this umbrella with the rest of Northern California where these fires have been, not in Humboldt. Our fire insurance last year with a $250,000 deductible was $280,000. And prior to that, our fire insurance was less than $100,000. It was about $85,000. This year, we're now paying $300,000. And these numbers just can't be sustained. So this will help us. This will give us some information to give to the insurance people, and we strongly support it, and thank you for your support.
All right. Thank you, John. We'll go to 0151.
Good morning. This is Dottie Russell from Southern Humboldt. I just want to tell you that we have some properties that are rentals, and many of the people that we rent to are low income. And so to try to keep things low for them while the insurance goes up all the way to forced-placed insurance on some of our mortgages. So this will be wonderful to support this so that we can get some relief on this horrible situation with fire insurance. And I want to say it is a wonderful day when we come to say thank you and we hope you support something rather than having a little disagreement or a complaint about something. So I hope the rest of the day goes well. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Dottie. 9109. Press *6 to unmute. You're next.
Good morning. This is Gail Eastwood, and I'm the chair of the Southern Humboldt Fire Safe Council. And the Fire Safe Council down here is enthusiastically and unanimously in support of enlarging the Garberville district to include its current support area. The new additions actually count for 70% of its calls. And I'm calling to ask you all to approve the staff recommendations and which establishes tax exchange agreements with Garberville and also with Salmon Creek. Both of these departments are really important parts of our mutual aid network. And this mutual aid network of local volunteers is something that we especially rely on when the fire conditions are at their very worst and CAL FIRE resources are drawn down. And as you all are probably very aware, these situations are happen more and more often as we see the increasing severity of wildfire events statewide. So once again, I just hope we can count on you all to approve these exchange agreements. And thank you for the foresight in setting up the mechanism and encouraging and supporting all our departments.
All right, thank you. Then we have 0326, and if you'd like to comment on the fire service tax exchange, this is your opportunity.
This is Charles Wilson. As I understand it, the areas outside the fire districts or fire protection districts are state responsibility areas, and essentially it's a courtesy, you might say, for the fire districts who serve those areas out there, but there's no money coming in from the areas in the fire protection district. Now, the fire protection districts, I assume, are similar to an assessment district, except that the tax is based on the valuation of the property rather than the benefit of the property, like an assessment district would be charged. But anyway, that was my only comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Charles. All right, we'll go back to the board now for the public, not the board, but in the boardroom for anyone who'd like to make a comment. And Craig, welcome. Nice to have you 2 weeks in a row.
Craig Johnson,
longtime Southern Humboldt resident. My wife and I co-own a property and a business in Southern Humboldt. And just to speak to John Porter's point about the insurance costs going up, ours is at $8,000 a year, which is catching up to our mortgage. And that is just unsustainable as well, and it's going to possibly cause a migration from these rural areas. So it's really important to have your support, which I think we do. And to give you a little color on the community support that you will go along with this, we tried about 20 years ago to form this and push it along, and it kind of stalled out for a while until the climate showed that we really need to organize and get together on this, and the amount of people living in the hills as well. And we also formed over this past year a FireWise community, and we're FireWise certified in our Benbow area, which is showing massive support by many of the community members. And we were able to actually go in with CAL FIRE and some other members of the community and inspect 20 homes for that, which was really important. We had open gates and willingness from the community to move forward on this. So you might not hear all the voices today, but there's many, many community members behind this and pushing for a positive move. And our last FireWise meeting had 75 in attendance, which was really, really good. So a lot said there, but I think we appreciate you guys considering this and moving it forward, and we'll be here to bring the community forward and keep the support coming in. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Craig.
One last point. I heard a lot of talk about fire. I have a little more time.
Okay.
I heard a lot of talk about fire, but the medical services that are provided to the accidents. We go through the Redwood Curtain, Richardson's Grove, on up the 101, out the Alder Point Road, Shelter Cove Road, and all those medical calls are staffed by fire departments. And this will greatly help all that, those vital arteries, whether you live here or not. That's very, very important. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Craig. All right, we'll go back to the board. We have a motion that's been seconded. Supervisor Wilson?
I just want to be clear, this isn't controversial.
I know, that's what I said.
So, and for the, just to help the folks here in the audience, basically what you're seeing is fire districts that are quite small. They're servicing areas outside their zones where they collect taxes. They're doing that not just as a courtesy, but really as a moral obligation. As you can imagine, if you're a firefighter or a medical professional and there's emergencies outside the zone that are outside your taxation, you're still going to go and do your job to help those people in the community. So what we're trying to adjust for now is to expand into those spaces in terms of the jurisdiction, allowing them to collect revenue from those spaces. But it's going to be incumbent upon those local places to vote for this. I mean, we're just creating the infrastructure or the administration capability to do that. Those communities still need to vote for this. I hope that they do, and with that, that's my support.
Anyone else? Supervisor Madrone?
Yeah, that's so true. If you don't vote for it, it doesn't happen, right? I just wanted to thank Supervisor Bushnell. I know she's been incredibly involved in all of this, as well as Sean Quincy and Sibel Emmett, who without these incredible staff persons, none of this would be happening. Mm-hmm. They work tirelessly for this community, and these kinds of projects are a big lift. And they have put in the hours, they've put in the time, the research, and have brought together all the parties to work on this wonderful proposal. So thank you all for your help with that. And the volunteer fighters in the community. I mean, they're the heart and blood of these organizations, volunteering at all hours of the day. And when you're going out on medical calls on the highways, that is no small feat. So thank you to all of those volunteers in the community.
And I have Supervisor Bushnell, then Wilson again.
Thank you. Along with those thank yous, I'd like to include John Miller, who has just been really instrumental in drawing the maps and bringing the community together, as well as the CAO's office and the auditor's office for bringing the tax initiative. It's been a little bit of a workup to get it there. And additionally, the Southern Humboldt community, Salmon Creek and Garberville, along with Bimbo and Sproul Creek, they've done so much work to try to get here. It's been a lot of volunteer push years, 2-3 years, getting to this point, and they are committed. They are committed to, like Supervisor Wilson said, it's now up to the community to vote for this, and to understand that, you know, especially right now in a very trying time financially for a lot of people, to still be willing to add to your land tax, and knowing the benefit of that is just super important. The businesses in the Garberville, Bimbo area, you know, they're committed as well. They're going to have to pay a higher tax. It's based on a rate. But I just think that for that small community down there, it's just so instrumental. And I would like to really, really commend the volunteer departments. In small communities, as you kids know, in McKinleyville area, if you were a volunteer fire department and you went out on a medical call, say an accident, chances are that you would know that person that's in that accident. And it is really emotional, and they're just so committed to their community. They do it for their community. And to be supportive of those areas that don't have that kind of resource. I live in the Blocksburg area, and it's an hour and a half for an ambulance to get there. I depend on my volunteer department. If I'm having a heart attack, they're going to save my lives. So I just really, really commend the departments and what they're doing, and all the work the staff's done to get to this point.
Supervisor Wilson, then Bohn, or did you?
I think everybody said it, except for there's just one little slice, which is in those meetings with the fire chiefs in particular, coming up here and having those meetings and their thoughtful input representing their community in this. I just don't want to leave them out, but I'll just say everybody this is one of those things that really took a lot of different departments and a lot of different folks from a lot of different places to pull it together, and I appreciate that. And I'm hoping we see more of this, because there are areas in my district we could use this expansion. So there we go.
If I could add one thing which was so unique, the Salmon Creek area, they had 100% of their community that's going to be annexed saying yes. That doesn't happen often, and just recognizing the value of that department for each of their landowners in that district that they're going to be annexing, it just was really awesome to watch.
Supervisor Bohn, and I think we're ready to vote.
And put it in perspective, 70% of all firefighters in the United States are volunteer firefighters. And so we're talking about Southern Humboldt, but this doesn't take away anything all the way out there to Orleans, all the way out to Petrolia, all the way Oric, everywhere. Those are all volunteers. So,
all right. I think our last comment on this, since it is non-controversial and we're all in support, Supervisor Madrone, because we know the students have to leave.
Absolutely, but the opportunity to educate the voter is so important, and I think that's part of what we're doing here. So, you know, people say, oh, I don't want more taxes. Well, you can either pay this small amount of increased assessment on your taxes, or not have fire insurance, or have fire insurance that's 4 or 5 times as much as it would be when you have fire districts like this that can keep the ISO ratings low, which is why you're able to get fire insurance at all. So really, it should be a no-brainer. You either spend a small amount creating these districts, or you spend a whole lot more trying to get insurance if you can even get it. So that, you would think it'd be 100%. So anyway, thank you.
All right. Nikki, roll call also.
Okay.
And then hopefully by this afternoon, or I'll have my computer back. So.
It's because I didn't do it, because I've been having to do roll call.
Yeah.
Well, somebody got it, so I don't know what's going on. Anyway, Supervisor Bohn?
yes.
Supervisor Bushnell?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilson?
Affirmative.
Supervisor Bass?
Yes.
And Supervisor Madrone?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
All right. Thank you all for being patient and waiting through that one. Have a good rest of your day. Bye. Bye. I wish every morning started off like that. All right. So we're going to go to our 10 o'clock time set, a bit late. It is a closed session item coming to us regarding some existing litigation. County Counsel, Miles, will you brief us on that?
Thank you, Chair Bass. It is the intention of the board to meet in closed session pursuant to California Government Code Section 54956.9D1 in order to discuss existing litigation in the case of Citizens Protecting Humboldt Bay versus County of Humboldt et al., Humboldt County Superior Court case number CV 2201594.
All right, thank you. And I don't see any hands up from on the phone to speak on this item. We will come back to those in the room, and there's no one here to speak on the item. So we hope to be back.
We anticipate 15 minutes, maybe a half hour.
Okay, well, we know we have something around 11. So, yeah, we'll be back somewhere between now and 11 something, maybe. All right. So while we're getting settled here, Zach, I think we'll do the item that was pulled from consent, and then we'll do the general public comment. So if you're listening or watching on TV and you want to comment on items not on the agenda, you'll want to call in now and press *9 so we know you're there. Yes, ma'am.
We need to do
a report our closed session. I was getting there. I wasn't starting this yet. But before all that, may we have a report out of closed session?
Thank you, Chair Bass. With regard to item L3, the board voted unanimously to authorize the risk manager to enter into an agreement with Remy Moose Manley LLP for defense of the case of Citizens Protecting Humboldt Bay versus County of Humboldt et al., Humboldt County Superior Court case number CV 2201594.
All right, thank you. And so now going back to items pulled from consent. This was from Human Resources regarding the appointment of an appeal panelist under the merit system rules. And Supervisor Bushnell, you pulled this one, so I'll turn this to you.
Thank you. I did pull this as the policy states that this board is responsible for appointing. And so I had a problem with number 3 on there, which I've talked with HR director, and he has some corrective language I think would work.
Yes, hi. I've given it a shot, and we might need to workshop it a little bit, but I think I've got it here. So for number 3, basically the idea is the rules currently state that your board's supposed to make this appointment within 5 days, and sometimes that's just not administratively feasible, especially like in the next couple weeks. You'd be out of session for a couple weeks, but we need to still move these things forward. So appreciating that, I would recommend, and again, we can sort of talk about maybe changing this if needed, changing recommendation 3 to direct the Human Resources Director to recommend and appoint the County Merit System appeal panelists for future appeals after notification to the Board of Supervisors and prior to formal approval on a board agenda, and direct the Human Resources Director to bring an item to the Board of Supervisors to formalize the county panelist as soon as administratively feasible.
So I'll make a motion to that amendment to this item.
Second.
All right. Yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to add to it, or why you suggested that?
Yes, because the policy states that this board is the one that actually makes that decision, and with the item number 3, it cut the board out, and unless we do a policy change, I'm not comfortable with that.
Okay. Anyone have any comments? Nope. Yes. All right. So we'll go to those for public comment. Is there anyone who is on the line who wished to comment on this specific item? This would be the time. I do see one hand up at 0151, and this again is in regards to this appointment item.
Hi, I'm trying trying to do public comment, and I'm not sure when to do it on the
No, this
non-agenda
isn't
item.
it. This isn't it yet. Just hang on. It'll be in hopefully a couple minutes. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So there's no one else there. Is there anyone here in the audience who wish to comment on this item? Seeing no one, we'll go back to the board. Any conversation, or are we ready to vote? And I'll still do one last roll call on this because haven't.
Okay. All right, Supervisor Bohn?
Yes.
Supervisor Bushnell?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bass?
Yes.
And Supervisor Madrone?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thanks, Zach.
All right. So now for those waiting for comment on items not on the agenda, we'll do that piece now. I know we have one hand up. If you are listening and you want to make a comment on non-agenda items, this would be the time to press star 9 so that we know you are there. All right. Well, we have one hand is 0151.
Hi, Dottie Russell from Southern Humboldt again. So it's getting really down to the wire with the whole Christian Science Church lot, and I haven't been able to get together with everybody that I need to get together with the Board of Supervisors. There was a little misunderstanding, I think, maybe a lot of a misunderstanding about the cost recovery and what happened. There was a little comment. I'm not going to, say anything about how it happened, but there was a comment that maybe the money from the church property was going to go to me personally. That's not how it goes with a nonprofit, and so I think that was just a misunderstanding. If there's anything that needs to be clarified about that, I'm happy to meet with anybody that has a concern about it, because actually I don't believe that people should have to pay money to talk to somebody about healing when they're sick or not well for any reason. And so we don't, when we meet, which is often and not always at that property because of what happened there, we meet and we don't have a collection plate. It doesn't mean somebody can't offer to make a donation if they'd like, but we really try to embrace the community with healing and with prayer and with hope. And that can only be done if you're available 7 days a week, or at least somebody available 7 days a week, so they know they have somebody to talk to when they're feeling a time of need. So we don't have a lot of money that comes in when we sell that property ultimately, which should be here soon. It should be for a fair price, which has yet to be determined, and part of the holdup of the whole thing has been the lien. So I don't know how to talk about the lien with the supervisors. I don't know how to resolve it so there can be a discount on it so that we can go forward possibly with the hospital, depending on what they're going to do with the property. Occasionally, the board will respond, but Michelle, if there's not a response today, can you please contact me and tell me how we can go forward to talk this through with the planning department, with the hospital, with whoever else might have been interested in it, and with the cost, because if the church ends up with nothing at all, they won't be able to recreate even anything in Phillipsville, which is what we're hoping to happen, because in the flood there was a church here and it was washed away. So it's time for the Avenue and Phillipsville and a church to reunite. So we hope that somebody will somehow get to me.
All right. Thank you very much, Dottie. All right. So, and I do know there's a few people that wanted to come back for the 11 o'clock item that I don't see out there yet. I'm going to try to go for one quick item, and I hope it's quick. Usually is. We need a department item. The first one, county from the CIO's office regarding our board calendars. Well, your board calendar for next year.
Thank you, Chair Bass. Annually, this item comes before your board to review the upcoming year's board agenda calendar. You'll have the opportunity to identify any conflicts on this calendar. However, by and large, the calendar is the same as it has been in the years past, with a couple exceptions. January 31st, we would recommend adding a meeting due to January and February holiday conflicts. Tuesday, April 11th is the CSAC Ledge Conference, which would cancel the meeting for that date. And then in September, we would recommend adding the September 12th meeting and canceling the September 19th meeting for the RCRC annual conference.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Supervisor, I had Bushnell and then Bohn.
So thank you through the chair. So the meeting dates that you're suggesting, like the September 12th, they currently are not here on this.
Correct.
Okay, so that would be updated to us. Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
of course. Thank you.
Supervisor Bohn.
I'll make a motion, we accept staff's recommendation.
Except that I really think Halloween we should be here.
Second motion.
You can be here. All right, we have a motion and a second, and we will go to public comment. And there's no one here to comment on this item. Do you see any hands up on the phone? All right, so we do not have any, and
I have.
so any other conversation, or are we just ready to vote? Can you do a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Supervisor Bohn?
Yes.
Supervisor Bushnell?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bass?
Yes.
And Supervisor Madrone?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Ryan, I'm sorry, it might be a little bit longer for you still, if that's okay, because we have an 11 o'clock group that we're doing now. I'm sorry. You're going to be okay with that? Well. Yes, I have a hard out at 1. Hard out at 1. Okay, well, I hope we're there by 1. Okay, good. Just, yeah, Tom's on Zoom? Okay. Okay. So, all right, so who do we have who will be doing this report for us? Are they? So, we have someone from Public Works.
Supervisor Bass?
Yes, I can.
We might be able to move to the public hearing. It should be a quick item.
Okay, so you're saying we're still waiting for Public Works to appear?
Yes.
Okay, so a quick item. Sorry, Ryan. Pretend you're not watching. We're skipping you again. All right, so the public hearing, that's an interesting one that we have. All right, so before I do this. Oh, wait, here they are. They're here.
Go ahead, she's here. Let's just get her done.
I will. There's just some specifics on adjourning and re-adjourning this thing. Oh, God. All right, well, I'll go to you first, Tabitha, before I do go the official adjourn and then re-adjourn or reconvene.
Okay, and this should be a fairly straightforward, quick item. It is a cleanup item. Essentially, what we're doing is bringing forward the 13 budgets for the dependent special districts. These are the districts that the board actually sits as the board of directors for, which is why you're going through your list trying to remember that we need to adjourn and reconvene as the board of directors for the special districts before you open the public hearing. There are 3 on this list: the Fortuna Fire Fund, the Lolita Fire District, and the Whitethorn Fire District that actually have local boards that do provide budgets of their own. I will tell you that we just, as of yesterday, got the Whitethorn. It was less than we had estimated to put this budget forward, and we will adjust that going forward, but we were able to get the numbers from Fortuna and Lolita. They're pretty straightforward. Everything else, most of the lighting districts, maintenance districts, and the Humboldt, the drainage districts were essentially based on the expenditures from the previous year with a small increase for cost of living changes in those.
All right, so at this point, we're going to adjourn and reconvene as the Board of, we're going to adjourn as the Board of Supervisors and reconvene as the Board of Directors for the special districts governed by the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors. So we did hear the staff report, so we'll open the public hearing. And Supervisor Bohn?
Can I? Well, I'm glad to see you. We haven't seen you guys on this in 4 or 5 years, but thank you for getting it all caught up. But I'd like to make a recommendation to approve staff's recommendation.
Is there a
Second
second?
the motion.
Okay, Supervisor Bushnell, and we still will go to public comment. And if you're listening at home and you want to do this comment, press *9.
Thank you, through the chair. So I see the estimated fund balances and Fortuna Fire, Lolita Fire, so on and so forth. So are those current? Because these departments have been asking for current fund balances, and they have been getting told that it's not updated as of yet. So I wanted to know, are these the actual numbers?
So these were the numbers that when we rolled the year forward, and it's been probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, were available. And the one thing about the special districts, as opposed to sort of the county's general fund and some of the other funds, are that they're the actions and the transactions that run through them are pretty limited, so they should be pretty good. I can't guarantee that there won't be final adjustments that are made to 21, 22, but they should be a good estimate of where the fund balances are.
So
yes.
interest has apportionment?
No, it has not.
So it's not, these aren't the actual numbers then?
They're not no, they are not the actual
So they're
numbers.
not-
Until we close the books, we're not going to have actual numbers.
That's what I wanted to know, because
Correct.
I've been asking for the districts, and I've been getting from the auditors that they don't know.
Yeah,
So
I can certainly provide any of your districts up-to-date reports, but as you said, they're not going to be final at this point in
Okay,
time.
thank you for that.
All right, so before we go to public comment, I will say if you're listening at home and you want to comment on this item, press *9 to raise your hand. Is there anyone here that wanted to comment on this item? All right, seeing none, are there any hands up? I don't see any hands up. All right, we'll go back to the board. We do have a motion that's been seconded. Closing the public comment portion of this item already. And I think we're ready. My computer's up now. I can actually do it. Oh, yours is.
That's weird. Maybe sign out and, yeah, I'll do roll call, but yeah, for the next item. Okay, Supervisor Bohn?
Yep.
Supervisor Bushnell?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilson?
Yes.
Supervisor Bass?
Yes.
And Supervisor Madrone?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
All right, so we now adjourn as the governing board of the Humboldt County Special Districts Commission, reconvene as the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors. We don't do that very often. That's kind of a little confusing one. So now we're going to go to the original time set 9:15 that comes to us from planning, from Public Works, and it's regarding a resolution to summarily vacate a portion of Fisher Road in the Hydesville area.
Good morning, Chair Bass, members of the board.
I do want, I will ask County Council, because this isn't like an appeal or anything, but should we recommend, mention if there's ex parte communication? Is that something, because it's not an appeal, it's not quasi judicial?
I don't think it's required, but if any
you
board
want to.
member would like to, they can.
Okay.
Well, I would say that I've had conversations with Jack Noble and his grandson, and with the Pattons. And I was on a site visit.
All righty. Supervisor Madrone?
As chair of the Great Redwood Trail Agency, I've had some communication with some of my staff there,
Okay.
as well as with Public Works staff, but I don't think that's ex parte.
Okay. Yeah. And I will say, I ran into Shelby in the hallway yesterday. That's my conversation, and I think Supervisor Owen, said the same. All right, so thank you, Supervisor Bushnell, for asking that, so at least we do have that out on the table. So, Director Mattson.
Good morning, Chair Bass, members of the board. As stated, the subject of this is the vacation of a portion of Fisher Road. We do have a staff report, and I do want to indicate and acknowledge that on Friday we received some information about a possible conflict with the future Great Redwood Trail. So we will cover that later on in our staff report to make sure that you have all the information that we have. With that, I will turn it over to my county surveyor, Mr. Bob Bronkel, who will provide the staff report. Thank you.
Good morning, board. Today
We have a request for a vacation of a portion of Fisher Road right-of-way in the Carlotta area. This particular vacation needs a little bit of a staff report to discuss the nature of the right-of-way that exists out there for Fisher Road in order to understand context between community concerns about what rights the public has out there and what rights the public does not have with respect to the road. There we go. Fisher Road is a dead-end road. It dead ends both north of Highway 36, and it also dead ends south of Highway 36. And it looks like my slides weren't formatted quite right, but we'll make do. The reason why it's important to see the context of the road to the north and to the south is that the maintained mileage that the county tracks includes both segments of the road. The portion of the road that's proposed for vacation lies south of Highway 36, and that is the tan line with the red dots in it. That's the right-of-way that's being proposed for vacation. The right-of-way that the county has in this particular area it's not a deeded right-of-way. With the site, it appears from historical evidence and from testimony from the public that at one time Fisher Road did cross the river to serve properties south of the river. And on the diagram here, I've highlighted a couple areas that currently show access towards the river bar that may have been used for access to the river. There could be other areas as well. Of particular interest is that the county road has historically always ended a couple hundred feet from the current edge of the river, and that's noted on the diagram there. And the county did install a K-rail at some point once the river eroded away the bank where the road continues to. So the road does continue on as a non-county maintained road till it hits the river. In the present condition, as noted, county maintenance ends before the river. We placed a K-rail at the end of county maintenance, and the road is not traversable once it hits the embankment at the river. County doesn't have a deeded right-of-way. The county's claim for a right-of-way is through something called an implied common law dedication, and that ends at the K-rail. And any public access to the river is across private property. This is a picture.
So I have a question. Do you want questions now or after you do your presentation? I mean, I know it's preferred after if possible. How about just a definition and not a question?
On that last slide, public access to the river is across private property. So is it really public access? If it's across private property, I'm just saying, it just seems like there's a contradiction right there.
Well, we're going to cover that in a couple
so
slides.
Then let's hold the questions till after we're done with the presentation. Thank you. That works out. I know we didn't know. Just saying.
This picture is taken from the end of where the current road is. It's elevated up 20, 30 feet higher than the river. On the left side of the picture, you can see evidence of a steep bank. And this is a panoramic shot, so it's slightly distorted, by the way. Prior conditions suggest that the road continued south across the river, and we could find no record of a deeded public right-of-way for the road beyond where county maintenance ends. So the nature of right-of-ways, for public right-of-ways, typically we'll see deeded right-of-ways. These are deeds where a landowner officially creates an easement granting the county a right-of-way for public road purposes, and that deed would be recorded. Another way that we get right-of-ways is when they're dedicated on subdivision maps. A third way that we get right-of-ways is through an antiquated process from the late 1800s through road register, which was a process that allowed for wagon roads to become public roads. And that was something that was allowed in the late 1800s by state law. Private right-of-ways, they could also be deeded as a private easement from one party to another party. They can also be established on subdivision maps to provide pertinent easements for access and utilities for the lots being created on the map. And they could also be through something called a prescriptive right-of-way, meaning that someone is walking across someone else's property or driving across it or using their property in some way without the owner's permission. That's the nature of the type of public access that is occurring right now to the river, is perhaps through some form of prescriptive right where the public leaves the county right away and then walks across the patent's property to go ahead and access the river bar. I did skip over the implied common law dedication, and this is critical to the discussion at hand. In much like a prescriptive right-of-way is a private party using someone else's land, implied common law dedication is essentially the public's use of another person's property where we don't have a deeded right-of-way. Both implied common law dedication and prescriptive right-of-way need to be perfected in a court in order to become a deeded right-of-way. At this point, it's simply just a claim, an argument that one would have that we've been operating this road in this location continuously since date X, and therefore we believe that if we were to go to court, the court would award a judgment in favor of the public for a public right-of-way to continue to operate and maintain a road in this location. That's the stance that the county's taking with the road right-of-way at this particular location. The proposed vocation would reduce the amount of Fisher Road that the county maintains. It also includes the dedication and the construction of a new turnaround where the road will end. Since the date that the staff report was completed, new information was provided to the county. This is information that Public Works should have been aware of, so it's my apology that I didn't properly vet out the effect of the great Humboldt Trail. This screenshot is from the right-of-way documents that are on the website for the Great Redwood Trail. And it is showing the rail line extending from the Alton area out towards Carlotta. And this is considered the Carlotta branch of the Great Redwood Trail. And along its route, it will cross River Bar Road, which is a county-maintained road. It will also cross Fisher Road, as it currently exists today. And then it will eventually cross State Highway 36 a little bit farther down the road. So it's roughly 2 miles from River Bar Road to Fisher Road along the trail, and then from Fisher Road to Highway 36, it's about another mile. So it's about a 3-mile travel along the corridor. So if the if Fisher Road is vacated, it would eliminate a potential access point onto the Great Redwood Trail, thence making the nearest hop-on, hop-off location about 3 miles apart. That would leave River Bar Road and Highway 36 as the next convenient locations to either get on or get off the trail. The right-of-way for the railroad in this location is primarily fee title through the area where the Patents property is. In addition, the railroad also has some easements in that area as well. Getting back to the aerial diagram that I showed earlier, I superimposed the future trail in yellow so you could see where it is. You could see the crossing on Fisher Road, that it is occurring more or less near the midpoint of the area proposed for vacation. The options at this point is to approve the project as recommended by staff. And staff is recommending approval based upon the fact that the county's right-of-way is an implied common law dedication, and it's strictly limited to where the developed and maintained road is. Beyond that, the county doesn't have any easement to the river itself. Another option could be to approve the vacation subject to a reservation of a public non-vehicular access, which would then preserve the ability for access to the trail once it's finally established. Another option is to continue the hearing and provide direction to staff regarding other options that may come up in the discussion. And the last option would be to deny the vacation.
Supervisor Bohn, and then Bushnell.
Okay, I've got, on the second, approved with reservation of public non-vehicular access. Would that be for the future Great Redwood Trail? Because I went on the Great Redwood Trail's website, and they, I don't know where you got that, but they show none of this. They show the Great Redwood Trail running the rail corridor. It doesn't show 4 miles up through Carlotta. Not saying that it can't happen, not saying it won't happen. But I talked to a couple people in Carlotta, and they hadn't heard about it. I was there last night doing a dessert auction. But anyway, so if we approve this with reservation of non-vehicular access, would that be just for the Great Redwood Trail? Would that be specific?
It would be for any non-vehicular purpose. But the intent is that it would provide access for the trail, meaning that if a reservation's made, that reservation's there and allows anyone not in a vehicle to go up and down the road.
Supervisor Bushnell.
Thank you. So could an option be approve the reservation for public of the Great Redwood Trail, non-vehicular access?
That option, the best way to pursue that option would be to look at approving the complete vacation of the road as it exists today and seeing if the applicants are interested in irrevocably dedicating a non-vehicular access over the road area for access to the trail. That would then extinguish the public's right until some point in the future when the board would accept that right-of-way as a public right-of-way and the trail is ready to be opened.
Can you go back to the picture of the, where you highlight right there? So you see the yellow is, I'm assuming the railroad, which I believe their house is right there. And it's my understanding with having conversations with Senator McGuire and Jason Lyles that there's going to be options to move that trail to a more suitable spot for lots of people where it passes through their residence. And so I'm not even sure that this portion of that will be staying there. And so I think for myself, just, that's also bull pasture. I know that there's like 25 bulls in there. I don't think anybody's wanting to walk through there. But I'm wondering, do you know why the Pattons are requesting a vacation of this area?
The Pattons came forward to Public Works due to concerns of trespass on the property, as well as activities of people leaving the county right-of-way and creating issues that is affecting the safety of the Pattons. And I'm sure that they will further articulate the specific issues that they've been experiencing out there that necessitate moving forward with the vacation.
Okay, thank you.
And Supervisor Madrone, then Bohn.
Thank you, Chair Bass. Yeah, good points that you bring up, Supervisor Bushnell. So a lot has changed in this situation. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Surface Transportation Board, which is the federal agency that oversees all our railroads, made a ruling that the Great Redwood Trail, which includes the main line coming up along 101 or through the Eel River Canyon, along with the Carlotta Spur and the Samoa Spur, have now been rail banked, which means that it's being preserved so that someday, if there's ever a possibility of having a train run again, that possibility exists. But in the meantime, a trail could be built. If the trail is built and it's on the railroad prism, and some sort of a railroad proposal comes forward that's viable in our future, which many of us hope is potentially possible, although highly unlikely, that then the trail has to move off the rail bed itself, but can still be within the right-of-way. So around Humboldt Bay, the way the trail is being built is within the railroad right-of-way, but separate from the rail prism, so that if there's some use of the rail around the bay, that can still occur. I know this is catching a lot of landowners by surprise. I apologize for that. It's been up in the air for quite a few years. As we all know, the train hasn't really run for like 20 years in that area or more. And there were places where there's easements, and there are places where there are fee title ownership. Where there are easements, now that it has been rail banked, those property owners that had easements have a right to file a claim with the federal government for taking and be compensated for that. Now, while that might provide some financial compensation, it certainly doesn't really solve the issue of the fact that in this particular case, the railroad right-of-way is literally the driveway into the Pattons' homestead, and it runs right in front of their house, right in front of their porch. And that probably is not very desirable for the Pattons, I would imagine. And so what we are hoping to do is be able to sit down with landowners. In fact, Supervisor Bushnell and myself have a meeting on December 5th with another landowner a little further up the tracks, where the maps that were put up about a week and a half ago on the Great Redwood Trail Agency's website actually showed the trail running right through their pool and their house. And that's just an error of the mapping, right? A lot of times with this GIS mapping stuff, what you see on the map isn't necessarily exactly what's really happening. It's a depiction, it's somebody's best interpretation of where it belonged, but that was a great example of where, no, it's not coming through their house. In fact, they are prepared to show Supervisor Bushnell and myself exactly where the train tracks are. And it's not in their pool, it's not in their house, it's not even on their property, but it is nearby. And so, long story short, there's going to need to be a lot of negotiations with private landowners. And if it is an undesirable location for the trail to be on that railroad right away, we are hoping to be able to sit down with landowners and discuss where might the trail be able to be moved to not have that kind of impact directly on a family that has their house right on the right of way. And there are many other situations like this down in the Eel River Canyon, in Fort Seward, and Blocksburg, and other places where we're going to have to do the same kind of thing. So that is the intention there, but it's not surprising that Public Works missed this because it's not part of the Carlotta Community Plan. It's not part of the county's Trails Plan, which are old documents that haven't been updated. The Carlotta Plan is probably, 40 years old or something like that, and the Trails Plan is at least 10, 15 years or maybe older as well. So again, apologies for this seemingly coming out of nowhere. I am the vice chair of the Great Redwood Trail Agency as appointed by this board, along with Jeff Hunderlock, who represents Operating Engineers 3. He also sits on the board of directors for the Great Redwood Trail. And when this came out last Friday, that's when I first heard about it. Had I had more time, I would have loved to have reached out to the landowners personally. And I hope that we can still do that, that Supervisor Bushnell and myself could come and meet with the landowners down there and talk in more detail. But, you know, I want to recognize that as the Pattons and others in that neighborhood have pointed out, there have been some public safety and environmental safety issues there with people coming down the road that don't live there and dumping garbage, dumping appliances, as I hear it from the neighbors in that area, picking up garbage, picking up needles and other things. And we know that these kind of isolated road systems often are subject to that kind of bad behavior. And so out of recognition for those concerns, I think that we can have a compromise here where we could eliminate vehicular access as it's proposed. I fully support that with the gate and the turnaround. But at the gate, we would need to have a pedestrian bicycle small gate that doesn't let vehicles through, but would let pedestrians and bicycles through to be able to get down to the trail. In addition, we ought to maintain a vehicular access for maintenance vehicles that would need to go on to the Great Redwood Trail to do construction work and or maintenance work. So it would be a limited vehicular access, only for maintenance work to occur on the trail, but primarily a pedestrian bicycle access to be able to get on or off the trail, because as noted here, this is a 3-mile reach and it's the only real access to be able to do that. Sometimes for safety reasons, it's good to have that, but just out of convenience, it allows for different small loops. The positive element of this is it's going to bring in new economic development opportunities for landowners along the trail. I know that may not seem like a positive to people at this point in time, but if you look at these rail trails, as they call them, around the United States, initially many communities are somewhat opposed to the idea, especially adjacent landowners, for good reasons. But what has been found out is that it actually presents a whole new economic opportunity for bed and breakfasts, for bike rentals, for kayak rentals, for other kinds of economic development and jobs that can be connected with the trail, because it's going to be someday a really magnificent resource for the community to be able to get back and forth without riding on Highway 36, which is really, if you're a bicyclist, that's pretty much what you do right now. So I know that may not sit necessarily really well with a lot of people, but it is the reality on the ground. It has been rail banked. It will be becoming a trail, but we want to work with landowners to make it as good of a resource as we can for the community, for the neighbors, et cetera. So that's what I would hope that we could do, is find that compromise of eliminating the problem vehicles, but allowing for pedestrian and bicycle use, as I stated.
Thank you. And what I wanted to say is I know that the applicants were here with their attorney. I didn't know, I was offering them an opportunity to speak if they wanted, or perhaps just to answer questions. So I'm not sure where the board wants to go on this. What?
I would like to ask them a question.
Okay. Yeah, so you guys may be called up, or you might want to sit in the front row. It's a little easier to get up here. And so, but we do have right now I have Supervisor Bohn, Bushnell, and Wilson. So how about we'll do Supervisor Bohn, and anyone that wishes to ask you a question.
So on this is for Bob first. So it sounds like this is going to be an offshoot of the other 358 miles of Great Redwood Trail, which is going to take place, we're years away from this and everything else. So if we do staff's recommendation today, that will give you all the time in the world to negotiate later on with the property owner so we can move forward, so we don't saddle them with anything else or the cloud where you guys negotiate this out, because we don't even have it would seem to me that the trail's going to end up the road a little bit and along the edge of the pasture and not divide agricultural land. It won't divide agricultural land. So we have a staff's recommendation. I understand they're with the ruling with the skunk train and everything else that they get to control everything. But since it's not on their website and it hasn't been in their plans, I don't expect they're going to offshoot 36 before they complete the other 300 and some odd. What's the problem, Mike?
Okay, can you just just continue?
Well, I'm just saying, so is there a reason we can't do staff's recommendation? You guys can work this out later.
Well, and you'll be, yes. Did you have anything you wanted to?
Yes.
Yes.
If there is truly an intent by the trail authority to realign the trail into a more desirable location that best fits the community setting, then as part of that, because the rail authority will have, or the trail authority will have fee title interest in its current alignment, there would need to be some sort of cooperation with the fronting landowner to do a lot line adjustment to reconfigure where the fee title lines are. And as part of that discussion, any sort of future trail access could be negotiated as part of that lot line adjustment. So there are opportunities where all that could be kicked down the road to be figured out at some point when, if and when that Carlotta segment does become a reality.
Okay, then I had Supervisor Bushnell and then
Thank
Wilson.
you. Thank you through the chair. So thank you, Supervisor Madrone, for that suggestion. My concern is when I spoke with Shelby some months back, there was an issue that came up for her with someone that had walked in or on a bike. And so I think there's a safety issue with that, with the activities that have been going on for the general public to be able to access their property through a gate, which would be a bicycle trail or walking trail. I don't think the issue is just driving. In fact, I think that might be more of the minor issue. And so maybe Dustin or Shelby could explain, what the safety concerns are there with this and how this even came up that we're here today.
I can answer that in a general fashion. If you wanted more particular details, I'd refer to Shelby or Kelly, but my clients have been having problems with people going down there, trespassing on their property and starting fires, for example, near the river bar, in wooded areas and dry grass areas, things like that. They've had interactions with people coming onto their property near their home, have been abusive, yelling at them, that type of thing. And there's also been a number of incidents where there have been people going down there and using drugs on their property. If you want more particular details, though, perhaps.
She's going to hate this, but I'm going to ask Shelby to come up.
She's not a big public speaker. That's all right. Come on up. That's all right. Just sit down. You'll be comfortable.
Do you want to sit?
That would be awesome. Yes.
Well, and I want to hear more about the danger of like the bull encounters. I mean, that sounds like something I would not want to go walking and.
Bulls do what bulls do. So I appreciate the flexibility that you're being open to, and we are also open to sitting down. I know Kelly is open to sitting down with you, and we've been wanting to have more conversations with Michelle and now you regarding the Great Road Trail and how that's going to affect everything. And we are open to moving it. And I hear what you're saying as far as trying to come up with a compromise when it comes to driving versus bikes versus people walking. So I'm going to give you two examples. So one example is, the only way I can even describe it is it's a cross between Carrot Top and what's his, Manson, the murderer guy. Charles Manson. That is my example. He was a cross between the two. Kelly and I were going for a walk down by the river, and he had a machete tied to his waist that passed his kneecap, and that's what he looked like. And he was pulling out sleeping bags and bedding and waters, like he had been staying there for however long, and tattoos all over. We could tell he had been staying on the property, and we're just down the way. We had no clue he was there. And they were burning fires and things like that. So that's one example. That's on foot. To give you an example of in a vehicle, you guys recall Hydesville being on lockdown just recently? That gentleman came down in a very beautiful black Mercedes-Benz, and that was the day before Hydesville got locked down. And come to find out, the guy that locked himself, that He locked himself and his girlfriend in the house, is what I understand, and was threatening her with a gun. And he was on my road. I spoke to him the day before. He's a brother of one of my old coworkers. And he asked, you know, I want to go down and hang out at the river. And I said, I'm sorry, sir. It's an emergency turnaround at the end. And unfortunately, you're only able to turn around and, you know, come back. I was walking up, one of my neighbors who has access, we've given many of our neighbors access to walk Fisher Road, see something, say something, pick up trash. We give them our trash can to put trash away. She was walking on the side of the road, and I told her, I stopped, and I wanted to warn her because I know him and I know his past. And as I'm talking to her, she was super startled. He came flying up Fisher Road, probably around 60 miles an hour. So through that tree, the single lane. So you've got two examples, and I appreciate where you're coming from, but in a sense, you're basically asking us to come up with a,
So I have,
how do you measure that?
thanks, Shelby. I have one more question, two questions actually. If we were to put a walk-through gate that would walk to where? Because the county road ends and goes to private land, theirs. So no one would have access to that private land, that's theirs. And the county road ends well before the end of the road and goes on to their private. So if you were to put a walk-through bicycle through, I don't know where they would go, walk down to the end of what used to be the county road, turn around and walk back. For what purpose? They can't access the river, it's private land. And so that's just kind of a statement of when I'm thinking about what you're saying. And the second portion is, Shelby, are you often, I understand your husband probably works away from home quite often. Are you there alone quite often?
I am. I have an amazing neighbor, Dan and Margene, who actually wrote a letter that's in your guys' packet, I believe. When Kelly's gone, I don't know what Dan's he was in law enforcement, he's a retired law enforcement, and we've made an agreement that he has all my contact information, and every morning he comes down and he checks on me, because we've had multiple situations. I hadn't gotten home yet. Somebody went down there. He knows the makes, the models, the vehicles, the license plate, what they're wearing. That's just in his nature. They hadn't come up yet. And so he went down to go find them. And they were walking around our property with a flashlight. So he got them out for me. So there's been multiple. And there's many of them have been filed with Sheriff Hansel. So he's completely aware of the issues that we've been having.
Thank you, Shelby. I'm sorry to have to do that, but I think for context we need, for context, thank you. I really appreciate that.
You might, don't leave yet, just in case. Someone else might ask you something. Anyone have any questions of Shelby? You can tell she loves speaking in public. All right, so Supervisor Bohn, I think I had you, then Wilson. Nope. Supervisor Wilson.
Okay, so what's up?
Yeah.
The reason I had some sort of facial expression of confusion was because there just seemed to be this like planning event occurring, like we're planning where trails are going or not going, and I just was not prepared to have that sort of discussion. It seemed like that's way cart before the horse. It seems to me we have a landowner who was only informed of this on Friday, which is the Great Redwood Trail, and they have not made any. I appreciate that Steve is here, but they have not been brought into this process. They haven't been asked. Their board hasn't been asked about what they think the situation is in terms of access to their property, which is a nexus to this. They're a property owner, and we're not respecting their ability to be part of this process. If we move forward in today, I think I think one of the options is that we continue this this discussion until after that property owner has the ability to comment on this process. I just don't think it's. And so, but the other part about this too, it's not just about walkers and bicyclists, it's about equestrians. There has been a lot talk in the past about this trail being for equestrians. I also think that if access is curtailed in terms of the issue with relationship to whether it's vehicular or non-vehicular, it should go all the way to the end, because we don't know what the planning process is in the future. And so I think we don't want to curtail the options in terms of planning in the future. I do really think, though, that there should be outreach to that property owner that was not notified, and that they have the opportunity to look at that and respond and give us their input and feedback.
Supervisor Bohn, then Bushnell.
Well, we're coming in, and they have a right-of-way. I don't know if they own the property, and I guess that'll come out. But how long have you guys I'm talking the Great Red Trail. How long when did they put in for this vacation of the road?
It's been the better part of 6 months, if
Okay.
not longer.
How long have you guys?
I think it was closer to a year, if my memory serves me well.
Okay. So something popped, okay. How long has this piece of property been in your family?
1974.
Okay. So what I'm hearing now is everything changes because things may change in the future for planning. I'm still sticking by making a motion to accept staff's recommendation. And the Great Redwood Trail, like they said, they're going to have to work this out with a lot of property owners, and they'll just have one more. Sounds like they have a willing property owner. I don't know what we're going to come back and discuss, because it's not ours, it's theirs. And staff recommendation, I don't see anything that's changed except, and I don't see what has changed here except the chance for these to have a safer piece of property. And Tom, how many pieces of appliances have you picked up at the K-Rail? More than you can count?
One spot out of many.
Yeah. So I would make a motion to accept staff's recommendation.
For conversation, I'm going to second, but I have a question to Supervisor Wilson. So the comment that you just made with planning and to have it go all the way, it doesn't go all the way. It goes on to, it stops at their private land. So what is are you saying that we just continue it on across their private land? The road doesn't go to the end of the river. It stops, goes on to patent property, which is private land, which we can't access. So I'm wondering what your thought is there.
Can you bring up the options, please?
And then Supervisor Madrone. No, I know that. I'm just saying I wanted to recognize that he's there. Since they have to pull something up.
And I think Supervisor Bohn brings up a good point. We don't know. That's the point. That's why I'm saying we don't have all the input. I don't know what their input is.
But as a landowner, that like the and
And they are a landowner.
and they still have the same rights. This doesn't vacate their rights.
I don't know. Our attorney or their attorney? I think
we
we have
have
to ask
one.
our attorney.
I don't know if we have an answer for that question from anyone.
So what's the difference between approve as recommended or approve with reservation of public non-vehicular access? There's a difference there, right? And so right now, the motion on the table is to approve as recommended, which means that we will stop public access to that space. And
Correct.
And so we're basically giving away the public's asset in that regard. That currently it belongs to the public. So I'm talking about the public's benefit, which we represent, is ownership in that asset, which is the right-of-way, correct?
Correct.
So we're being asked to give that away in the public's best interest.
What are you giving away to go where?
I'm just telling you, it's an access right. It
An
has a
access
value.
to
Okay.
what though, Mike?
Let one person answer, and then we'll.
I'm asking the question because and I'm trying to understand respectfully. An access to where?
To wherever the public wants to go. It's
To the
access.
end of the road to turn around to walk back?
Sure.
Okay.
Why not? I like to walk. There's not a lot of trails around there. I'm just saying, people like to walk around. I'm just saying, whatever it is,
And
it's still access.
I guess I understand. I understand that. I'm trying to understand because the approval with reservation for public non-vehicular access, but I'm concerned about the public safety issue.
And I understand that. All I'm saying is that I don't think that this is baked enough to make that decision in this moment, knowing what we know with the new information that we received and not receiving the input from the property owner that is also impacted by this. It just feels like we're not doing justice either to that property owner or to the public at large in what we are doing, which is giving something away. And so from my perspective, we need more information, and I think number 3 is sounds reasonable to me, which is continue the hearing, receive input from the GRTA about what they feel about this, have staff come back with modified language that would address that. That's all I'm asking for.
Can I ask a few questions, since everyone else seems to be in the conversation mode? Okay, I just wanted to ask. Yeah, I just wanted to, because I hear a lot of conversation, going on. Between the approve as recommended and approve as reservation of public non-vehicular access, if we approve it as recommended, would then, if in the future, would they be the ones that have the conversations with the Redwood Trail folks?
In
And
the
the public,
future, if there was a desire for the trail authority to seek access on where Fisher Road used to be, that would be something that would be negotiated between the trail authority and the current landowner of the property to come to an agreement about the terms and location.
Okay, so
of
there's
where that would
basically, I'm hearing you say there is a process, potentially. And then my other question is, I keep hearing about these bowls. I still want to know, where exactly, would someone walking down and there's other access points also, if I recall, to this, general area. How often would someone have the opportunity to accidentally run with the bowls when they're not wanting to? Okay, to me, that seems like that presents a financial liability, legal liability for the property owners, but that's just my opinion. Okay, thanks for answering those questions. Supervisor Wilson and Bushnell, again, Madrone, sorry. I knew Supervisor to the far right over there.
You mean the one being quiet and respectful to the queue?
Yes, it's like sometimes the queue gets kind of messy when the conversations start, but
Well,
you're
it
right.
does, and it can get heated, but, out of respect for each other, we ought to try and maintain the queue and not have the back and forth. I know we can get passionate about these things. You've certainly seen me get passionate at times, but I'm staying very calm here because I think it's important to the landowners, to the community of Hydesville, Carlotta, to our whole community that we stay calm and we think about how to make incremental improvement without taking away the opportunity for even more improvement down the road. And that's really what I'm trying to do. The Great Redwood Trail Agency has not had a chance to review this. They are a landowner, and they do have rights, and they should be in the conversation, but there was no time, given that I found out about this on Friday, for me to even bring it to my board and have our council weigh in along with the rest of our board. And I know they would like to do that. So I frankly think that option 3 is the way to go. And I know that, Bob, in your presentation, you said that the recommendation was for vacation, but that was the previous recommendation. You have new information, and I would like to ask Director Mattson, given this new information, is that still your recommendation to vacate it, or would you recommend that we continue it and bring it back at a point where the Great Redwood Trail Agency has had a chance to review it as a landowner with rights to make comment and hopefully work out a way to be able to improve public safety for the Pattons and others on Fisher Road, But what would your recommendation be today with this new information, Director Matson?
Well, since it would affect the railroad and access to the railroad, I would certainly think that we would want to talk to them. Whether that changes our recommendation in the future is not sure, because if they're going to have to negotiate and they have the ability to control the negotiations of where the trail goes, then of course they can negotiate an access point as part of that. But by giving up our access without an irrevocable public access, we are definitely weakening the public's point, because whether it's the Great Redwood Trail or the County of Humboldt, that's still taxpayers' money. And so I would at this point like to have the opportunity for us to meet with the property owner and the Great Redwood Trail Authority to see where they stand. I know where the property owners stand. And at this point, I would still highly recommend that even if we do nothing, we at least vacate it from the railroad track through the rest of the property. Even though that doesn't provide everything, it does keep people from going down and causing problems down at the end of the property by the river. And so unfortunately, we did not see this coming. Otherwise, we would have had the conversation. It's been so long because we haven't been having a long conversation with the Pattons, which we want to make things right for them. But all the access people have been going down there and fishing for years. And I know the Pattons have talked to a lot of the fishermen about their continued access and et cetera. And that took a lot of time. We wanted to bring this forward without controversy or with as little controversy as possible, but that all changed Friday night with the Great Redwood Trail. But there are options there. I mean, that they could support it if they know they're going to move the trail. That's a very strong leveraging point in future negotiations if they want an access point through the Pattons property. If they insist on the trail going where the rail is, I think that's going to be pretty controversial, putting it right in their front yard. So I'm kind of lost because I think they have the opportunity to do that themselves, but I hate to give up any leverage that we might have for future negotiations for the Redwood Trail. And so I would like to have that conversation.
Supervisor.
So I'm sorry, I'm not done.
Okay,
if I might. So I interpret that to be option 3, that continuance until we've had that chance to talk to the Great Redwood Trail Agency. You did mention that possibly vacating from the railroad grade down to the river. But often when you build these kinds of trails, there is a highly desirable aspect to it to have little spurs where you can walk over to a bench overlooking the river, for instance. And, things change. I mean, this used to be the stage route or the wagon road route before Highway 36 was built and Highway 101 and those things. So, in the 1800s, early 1900s, this was a thoroughfare as identified in the plan. But there isn't enough evidence there of recent maintenance or activity by the county to maintain the crossing across the river to other lands or whatever. So it becomes somewhat moot, and I don't hear anybody here trying to argue that there should be access, onto the river bar, across the river to the other side, things like that. Although there was the concerns from Mr. Noble about how it impacts his lands and things like that. The safety issue is huge, but we don't shut down all kinds of roads because there's all kinds of crime on them. And I'm not trying to minimize the impacts to you and your family, because having worked on the Hammond Trail and other things in McKinleyville for years, I know these things are real, very important stuff. But again, what I'm hoping to do is find a compromise that works for all parties, because our job is to protect the public's assets and resources, and this would cut off an important access. And who knows, in the negotiations, maybe the trail doesn't go out through the pastures on the east side of Fisher Road, which I'm assuming is the bull pastures, and it doesn't end up running out through there, but maybe it uses Fisher Road. I don't know. None of us really know because we haven't gotten there. What I can tell you, being a trail builder myself and being on the board of the trail agency, is that there are sections of this trail that will probably take 10 to 20 years to complete, especially up the Eel River Canyon. It's going to take a long time to negotiate easements, to change routes away from front yards, and to really plan out that in what is a pretty erosive environment going up the canyon. Whereas the Humboldt Bay Trail South is going to go under construction next summer. And that's been in the makings for a long time. So there are sections, especially in the urban areas, including Carlotta, that may happen sooner than later because they're there, they're flat, they're on the ground. They don't have the major construction problems of the Eel River Canyon, but they do have some of these problems where it runs in front of somebody's front yard, front of their porch or whatever. So it will take some time to negotiate, but there aren't the physical constraints like there are in other sections of the trail. So the Carlotta Spur could actually be under construction in the next 5 to 10 years, depending on negotiations and other things. Again, we don't know for sure, but it will happen a lot sooner than the Eel River Canyon. I can guarantee you that. I do think that a reasonable compromise would be to bring this back, have the discussion with the Great Redwood Trail Agency, and preserve a non-vehicular access with a vehicular access for maintenance when we get back to that point. But again, I'm open to listening and learning. Love to come out and meet with you on site with Supervisor Bushnell. We'll call that ex parte. But I just can't support the vacation because I think we're giving up public assets to do that. And I think we'd probably be vulnerable, actually, and I don't think it would end up exactly where you'd love it to be just by making that action here today. Because we're under scrutiny to make sure we're not giving away public funds or public assets. And I think a reasonable compromise is being proposed here on how to make your lives safer, not entirely safe, none of us are entirely safe, but at the same time preserving potential accesses for this trail, as well as a bench over the river. I mean, and I'm assuming the bowls are actually fenced in off of Fisher Road. You can walk Fisher Road without encountering the bowls at this point, is that correct?
Usually.
These are rodeo bulls, so they jump.
Okay, but they're behind fences.
They are behind.
Okay,
yes.
I understand. But the fishermen have been going down there for years. Have they attacked the fishermen when they've been going in there?
We had the entire.
You might want
I'm
to come
sorry,
up to the
excuse me.
microphone.
Excuse me, yep.
You got to get to the mic.
Yep.
Sorry.
Sorry to ask you in the audience, but please come up.
So between Trump 2020 and
That's a bull.
I was going to tell him that. Between
Just to be
Trump
clear.
2020 and Buffalo, who are the two meanest bulls and one of the most, they're the best bulls that go, all
Yeah.
across the United States to
Do their job.
go into rodeos and do their jobs. We recently, bulls do what bulls do.
Yeah.
They love to rub up against the fences and the posts. It's constant maintenance for Kelly and I.
Yeah.
And we do our best to keep them in
Yeah.
where they need to go. However, those two particular bulls I mentioned, they will jump the fence. So
Yeah.
you're talking about making it higher.
Yeah.
There was a mention also about equestrian potentially.
Right.
There's also a stud field. So they have 3 studs in that field that are making babies all day long. And
Yeah.
one of them is very aggressive.
Yeah.
And he will also jump the fence.
Yeah. So there's lots of issues. And again, a site visit would be wonderful to
Yeah.
be out there with you directly. And having done a lot of this work and worked out all kinds of easements in McKinneyville to move away from what was our right-of-way to a better location for the adjacent landowners, I can tell you that I am very committed to that process of working with you and with your supervisor to figure that out, because there may be all kinds of different options here that haven't even been thought about. You got the Carlotta Mill up there at the 36 and other things. So I think if we continue it to allow for those discussions so we can come back and really make an informed decision that both benefits the private landowner but protects the public's interest would probably be the best thing we could do here as a board today. But again, I'm just 1 vote out of 5. So
But respectfully, and,
Yeah.
and I get where you're coming from. And Michelle and I we've had multiple conversations about the railroad. In all fairness, this is, I'm new to property law, so this is it's a lot. And Bob can attest, this has actually been going on for over a year now.
Yeah.
This process, and that's fine. I've learned a ton in the making of all this. But it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Is the sentence out of Michelle's mouth about the railroad trail. So we have discussed it, and I would love a site visit, and we are open. One of the things that has come up with the railroad trail is that they take on no liability. So that is something else that has to obviously be taken into consideration. All the people who are approved fishermen or approved walkers, they have signed a waiver of liability if they are hurt. They walk with bear mace, they walk with, because it's not just the bulls, there's mountain lions, there's all kinds of predators.
Well, that's very smart of you. And I will say you're not alone. I don't know if it helps at all, but in my district, there's several of these projects where there's been some vacations requested. One of them out in Willow Creek on an old road called the Flower McNeil Road. And then also up in McKinleyville on Turner Road. And in both cases, what I am trying to do is work with those adjacent landowners to make their lives safer and better, while also providing for appropriate public use where it makes sense. And trying to find that compromise, which is really what we try to do up here, is trying to find that balance, protecting the public interest while trying to protect private interests where appropriate. So anyway, thank you, Chair.
I think I have Supervisor Bushnell and then Director Mattson.
So there may be an option for everybody to win on this. And that it would be for us to continue to come back, because this will be the first time the property owners have heard this. But if we were to reserve a right to the county for access to the rail for maintenance, vehicular access just to the county, not to the public, just to the county. And then for them to do an irrevocable non-vehicular easement to the county where the county agrees not to record that easement until such time as the trail is built. That way, we reserve all the rights of the public for those future negotiations, but the property owners get to immediately, upon approval by the board, move forward with the closure of the road and the gating of the road and the turnaround. And the public access is basically eliminated until such time as the trail is built, and then we would record that easement.
So that was going to be my suggestion, is that we could reserve that right, given the concern, but still do the vacation so that the safety of the Fisher Road for the property owners. But I don't know if the property owners would be.
I would like to clarify something also, just for
yes,
Mr. Mattson. This is not news to me. I've educated myself on the Great Redwood Trails. I've had multiple, I need to talk with you, so we need to definitely make that happen. So I apologize for not connecting that.
Shelby, he's talking about adding that as a stipulation to today's.
Right.
And that's what is new to you.
Well, and I can't speak to how the Redwood Trails fall under our deed and title, but Dustin can, because again, this is something that we've been educating ourselves on now for almost 2 years.
I have a question. Is this something that you're suggesting if we do this, it comes back again for this? Yes. So then there would be opportunity for Dustin, your attorney, to weigh in on that also without him flying on the fly here.
Yes.
He's prepared.
No, attorneys aren't allowed. Yes.
My client's actually agreeable to that.
Okay.
So, today, just.
Well.
So Tom, is that something that we could make a motion to that today and approve it?
Let me have Mr. Bronco clarify, because he's my expert on land use. And
Thank you.
I want to make sure that we get it exactly right.
All right. I do want to clarify one thing that Director Mattson mentioned, which was about the irrevocable dedication. That document would be recorded as soon as practical, but it would not be accepted by the Board of Supervisors. So that's how it lives on title, so that future owners would be aware that this encumbrance is there. And that allows the board at some point in the future to accept that offer of dedication through a resolution, and then that resolution will be recorded in the future, and it would then create the easement.
Supervisor Bohn, as a motion maker, had
I think I would accept that, as long, and I'm just saying, so nothing happens, it's going to record, it'll be on the title, but nothing happens till the Great Redwood Trail actually goes forth with a plan to build the Great Carlotta Spur, right? Because I've never heard of the Carlotta Spur until today. I mean, that's never been in any of the conversations. It's not on the website, it's nothing. So this is something new. So if the Great Redwood Trail, when it comes time to build the Great Carlotta Spur, that would open negotiations with the property owner and bring it back in front of us at that time, right?
It would give the board the opportunity to retain the ability to negotiate if in fact something couldn't be worked out particularly directly between the rail authority and the trail authority and the property owner.
And would they still be liable for the turnaround? Or would they be having signage saying there is dead-end road like some places?
They would need a turnaround, and that's
Okay.
really for fire safety.
That's fine.
I think I had Supervisor Madrone, then Wilson, and we still haven't heard from the public if there's any. I haven't seen any hands up yet.
Well, I think this has been a good discussion, and it's been productive. I see that there's going to want to be public input coming up in the back there. I think that we really shouldn't take any action today. I think what we're talking about is number 3, a continuance of bringing it back with these details flushed out on paper so that the landowners adjacent can review it, so that the Great Redwood Trail Agency, not authority, can review it and see if that works for them as a landowner as well. I think it's in everybody's interest to do that, to bring it back, have it clearly laid out. And so along those lines, I would make a motion to amend the motion, if we go back to our rules.
Okay, so, we don't do this that often. So if you want to amend a motion, then we have to make a motion to see if
There has to be
we're.
a second to
to
my
amend the motion?
amended motion, and then that gets voted on first. And then if it doesn't pass, we go back to the original motion. But I would like to amend the motion to accept recommendation number 3 from the Public Works staff, which is to continue the item and bring back the details that Director Mattson and Bob were talking about here, basically.
I'll second that motion, but I'm not totally sure if it meets Robert's Rules of Order. But
Well, and should we just vote? Actually, shouldn't we just,
and I also want a clarification on your suggestion with relationship to the county reserving its right from and you said to the where the current line is. I think that the county should reserve its right all for the entire length because we don't know where that's going to be. So if it gets moved out towards the river, I wouldn't want then to have given up the right with relationship to where that is in this. Do you see what I'm saying? So that would be important.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
That would be important to me. I still do think it should come back. I still think that the property owner, the affected property owner who has not been officially notified and has given input into this should have that opportunity to do so. I think it's important.
there was an answer. Did you ask them a question? Or no? Okay, I was
I
just
have a
saying.
question.
Okay, so Supervisor, I'm trying to go. We had the motion to amend, but I don't know if we actually got a second to. Okay, so do we vote on that first? This is something. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I think the best course is for Supervisor Bohn to withdraw his motion first.
No. So this becomes, we don't do this very often. So So Supervisor Wilson, since this is not something we do often, and you're suggesting public comment on the entirety or just this one amendment?
I don't think we can vote on something that we haven't heard from public comment on.
Well, I think with the amendment, I don't know, we have a county council over there. Let's see, this is your job.
The public comment should be on the entirety of the presentation up to this point. Once we have gone through the public comment process, then we can
come back and do this
We can come
piece.
back and have the
Okay.
discussions regarding the motions and amendments.
Okay, so there's a comment here, and let's go to public comment after this because there's not a lot.
Supervisor Wilson, can I ask you when, how, or maybe it's Mr. Bronco, our line ends, our county road ends, and it goes on to their private land. I don't understand you saying that we should extend. That is not our option. It's their land. Well, you said, no, I'm going to clarify, please. You said we should, with the comment earlier about retaining a right-of-way, and you said it should go beyond the county right-of-way. How would you do that?
And Director Bohn told
It's my understanding we have a right-of-way.
The county right-of-way ends before the K-rail, actually, and then it goes onto their land, so I don't understand.
I'll let
Can we have the staff weigh in on this? They seem to have some input.
The question at hand is, if we could pull the exhibit back up.
And while you're doing that, sorry, Ryan, we keep making you wait out there, but we'll try.
All right, so on the diagram, the area with the red dotted line is the Fisher Road that's proposed for vacation. It extends a little bit farther off the screen to the top, where it ties up to Highway 36. So one of the options that is being considered is reserving a non-vehicular access from the new cul-de-sac on Fisher Road all the way down to just where the railroad crossing is. The option that Supervisor Wilson is articulating is that non-vehicular access would extend the entire length of what public right-of-way that the county does have. So that in the future, let's say there was an agreement to relocate the trail closer to the riverbank, there would be the needed access would already be there to accommodate any relocation.
I totally understand. I missed the stopping at the railroad thing. And then when he said to extend, I totally missed that. So I understand completely now. Thank you.
So we're going to see if there's any public comment, and then we can come back to us, just so we can see what we're going to do here. There are no hands up on the line. Is there anyone that's here with us in person that wanted to comment on this item? All right, so we're back to us. We have this is where I need my process here, because this doesn't happen often. We had a motion that was made, then we've had an amendment to a motion, then we vote on whether we accept the amendment first. Yeah.
You vote on the amended motion. If the amended motion does not pass, then it goes back to the previous motion.
Okay. My other question with this is, the previous motion was before we heard from Director Mattson on this. Yeah, okay. Go ahead. And what were you saying, Supervisor Wilson? Okay, go ahead.
So right now, the amended motion is, can you bring up those options one more time again? I apologize. The amended motion is to continue the hearing and provide direction to staff, and that direction was to negotiate these easement language and whatever that would be, and then to get feedback from the property owner down the line, which is the GRTA. That's what it is right now. If that fails, currently it's just approve as recommended. There is no looking at public non-vehicular access or anything like that. So those are two pretty extreme things that we're looking at here. I would still ask that if the First Amendment fails, that we really take a look at a potential. I'll probably be making a motion for a Second Amendment, because we really do need, in my mind, if we don't continue this hearing, we do need to really go on the record that either we are or are not going to reserve the public's ability to have access to something that we already own.
So before I go to, I believe I have Supervisor Madrone, then Bohn, I would like to go back to staff again to, okay, so Tom, what? Yeah, I just wanted a clarification. If you can state again what I mean, I hear what we're saying about bringing it back, and I thought I heard you say that we could actually do something today that would go, yeah, so.
The only thing you can do today is approve or deny. If you want to modify it, like I suggested, yes, we do need to continue it, bring it back. The resolution that you have in your package is for approval, so that would have to change and come back to the board. And so if you don't approve or deny, it needs to be continued and brought back.
And I wanted to finish, this is my line of questioning with you guys. And if we did want to bring back and you have the discussion, that's when the discussion happens with the property owners. So you can actually talk about what you've suggested that they sound amenable to.
Correct. Without having to make a snap decision, they can think about it, talk with their attorney about it, and the railroad authority can have a chance to weigh in. But I think with what I proposed, should probably work.
All right. Thank you. Supervisor Wilson has a process issue, but Supervisor Madrone and Bohn are next, unless you want to give seed so he can ask the process question.
Yeah, because what we really need to do is take the first motion, approve or deny the first motion, and then make another motion. I don't think we can actually do the amending motion from the first motion.
You can conclude.
I will clarify. I will clarify. The only reason I made the motion to amend was because what I heard was Supervisor Bohn and perhaps Supervisor Bushnell wanting to take some action today rather than delay everything. And so because of that, I chose to make the motion to amend. Now, if, as was just stated, the motion that Supervisor Bohn is making he's amended it himself to bring it all back.
No, you said you could amend.
Well, that's what I'm asking for clarification on.
I said I could. I haven't done anything.
Okay, so that's why I made my motion. But if you chose to amend your motion to continue it and bring it back as we discussed, then I would drop my motion, because that's really all I'm trying to get to, is to have a chance for all property owners to weigh in and for Public Works to be able to craft this compromise agreement that may very well cover all the bases. And I think that's best done in the light of day, where it's in front of us, et cetera, and not take any action today, but to bring it back and then take all the actions together. And if you're willing to amend your motion to that, then I'll drop my motion. But otherwise, I'm just not, I think we're really crossing the line on public assets and giving them away without due process. And it could make us very vulnerable, and I don't want to see that. It's not good to the landowner to have something that we do then challenged in court or whatever. And why wouldn't another property owner challenge something? Not that I'm suggesting they would, because I don't have that authority, and I don't even know what they're going to do. But I do know that access matters to them. So I'm just saying, if you're willing to amend your motion.
I've heard that.
Okay. It's on you
Supervisor
then.
Bohn?
Okay, and let me clarification. I mean, we can kick the can down the road, but what I'm saying, Tom, when you said earlier where you were going to actually, you could record it but not act on it, that leaves everything open to the point the Great Carlotta Trail happens. Could that action not take place, because this is on this? It's a motion I'm making on an item that is on the agenda. So I mean, I don't have, and then we could argue about this again in 2 weeks or whenever, but we're going to argue about something that we don't know when, if, or is ever going to happen. And that's, I'm just saying, I don't know why we would spend a whole bunch of this present time, because I mean, you said 5 or 10 years, and I'm thinking it'll be longer, but could we do it that way? And then it leaves all your options open when something actually happens, because now we're voting on something that might happen or never happen.
And I just want to say, I want staff to be comfortable with what they're recommending to us, so.
The only thing that can be done today is approve or deny. If we want to return, I've offered some things that retain the public's ability to negotiate in the future.
I'm going to withdraw my second.
I'll withdraw my motion and have a new motion that we bring this back for further discussion.
I'll second that. However, is the motioner willing to put a December 20th date on that to come back?
Does it have to be that long? Or I guess that isn't that
Well,
long
I
anymore,
would
is
like
it?
to give, I would like to give enough time to talk with the trail and the property owners and have it come back on December 20th for
Yep.
discussion, or for motion. Rex, are you willing for December 20th?
So,
Well, it could be, so we have the 6th, the 13th, or the 20th in December.
Right, and then there's the Great Redwood Trail Agency's board schedule as well. So I think December 20th probably allows enough time for all that to occur.
And I don't want to come back without having answers
I
and
agree.
being able to make a motion that day to
I
move
agree.
forward.
I agree. Well, with your removal of the second, and then the new motion being made to continue it and bring it back as was suggested, with the second, I will remove my motion on the amendment.
Now we're stuck on a date, though, if the motioner can pick a date? Six? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The seconder is fine with that.
Look at that.
wow, okay. I guess we're ready. I think the vote button's up.
Did everybody's come up?
Not Mike's.
Mine did.
Mine did.
Approve as amended, is that how we?
Yeah, that's what it says.
It's a
Yeah,
new
oh, it says
motion.
it's a new
Add the
motion.
full motion to continue this item to come back to the
Oh.
December 20th, 2022 Board of Supervisors meeting.
Well, that's not what it says in what we've got, though. You want that one?
This is what comes up. I can't change what comes over on your island. We've got it.
Okay.
That
No,
is
understand,
yeah.
but what I'm saying is, this is with the language that was presented today. I don't want a whole bunch of add-ons and flooding Tom with, hey,
Correct.
can you do this, can you do this? With the language that was presented today.
That's correct. Do I need to do a roll call? Okay, there you are. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry for the last minute information. You guys hopefully we'll see you in December 20th. Chris, close to my last meeting. Okay, and I hate to not give anybody a lunch yet, but we do have Ryan Derby who has to leave at 1 o'clock, so.
Let's get her done.
Yeah.
That's all we got left.
That's it.
Yeah? Yeah.
See if I can drag it on for you.
Okay, well Supervisor Bohn, I think is hitting the road, correct?
It seems like every time we come up here for this, it's what rainy day.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing.
Are we taking a 5-minute?
I think.
Okay, okay. So we're,
We'll have Supervisor Bushnell just went across the hall, but that's okay.
rainy days and Tuesdays. I didn't get cranky. Oops, I'm on mic.
Oh, we're almost ready to start. So our last item today is an update on drought. Thanks for your patience.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. We are here a little past due for our every other month drought update. So I'm going to start off today with some slides provided by the National Weather Service talking about what we can expect over the winter months and what we can expect as far as continuation of drought. So as we can see here on this slide, this is a comparison of where we were with drought last year compared to this year at the same time frame. We've seen some general improvement in drought conditions pretty much throughout the coast of California, but drought continues, and although we've seen some recent rainfall, that's really just kind of preventing future wildfire, but it's not been enough accumulation to really improve drought conditions. This slide, similar to what you've seen previously, is a comparison to where we are with our current water year compared to the 30-year average, or what's considered normal. So the brown line is the normal precipitation accumulation. And as you can kind of see by the green line, it's showing that for the last 3 years, we've consistently been under normal or below normal for accumulated precipitation. with that gap getting bigger as we move into spring of 2021. So what we're seeing here is essentially 3 years of drought conditions, 3 years of arrears and rainfall, which is why we're still in this current drought state throughout California. So La Nina is the weather system that we're expecting for this winter. It's kind of a continuation of what we've seen the last 3 years. And essentially what that means is it's going to be colder and wetter in the Pacific Northwest, drier and warmer in the southern part of the state. And it's not illustrated very well on this, but Humboldt County is kind of in this uncertain zone. But we can kind of assume, since we've been in a La Nina for the last 3 years, that we can expect more of the same weather conditions, lack of precipitation that we've been seeing since 2019 and 2020. This is basically just hammering in that point. This is looking at November through January of 2022, 2023, with trending towards above normal temperatures and equal chances of above or below average precipitation. So in short, we don't know what's going to happen, but we can expect that it's going to continue to be below what we need to see to get out of this drought condition. And that's just another look from December through February of 2023. So warmer temperatures, uncertain levels of precipitation. And what that translates to in terms of drought outlook, we're seeing some improvements in drought conditions throughout northwestern California, but it's expected to continue. And this is looking through January of 2023. So at this point, we've seen some beneficial rainfall the last couple of weeks. In order for us to see some improvements in drought conditions in Humboldt County, we really need that to continue for about 3 months. But on that note, we've been doing these reports every other month for about a year, and it's a lot of stale information saying, hey, it's not raining, except when we come to your board. But we can expect drought to continue throughout California for the foreseeable future. And our recommendation today is that the board vote to approve us coming back on a 6-month cycle for reports. And that'll allow us to really examine what's happening in terms of the trends for precipitation and come back with some valuable information for your board to consider.
So moved.
Second.
All right, so motion
And a
second.
comment?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation. I know there's more to come, so maybe let's do that, and then I'll ask my question after that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, we just weren't going to let Mario say anything.
That'd be all right, but I do have some updates that I'd like to share. Supervisor Bass and members of the board, my name is Mario Calson. I'm the Director of Environmental Health, and I'm going to give a little update on 552 drought water shortage contingency planning for state smalls and domestic wells and harmful algal blooms. Each county, per Senate Bill 552, is required to have a standing drought task force to facilitate water shortage preparedness for state smalls and domestic water wells. Each county must also develop a plan demonstrating the potential drought and water shortage risk and propose interim and long-term solutions for resilience for those water sources. Staff has had 2 preliminary planning meetings to identify tasks that we can complete prior to release of a Department of Water Resources county guidebook that's due to be released in December. As the Department of Water Resources develops the guidebook, they've offered 3 webinars in which staff participates, designed to orient counties and share helpful strategies and resources. The 4th and final webinar and release of the guidebook remains unscheduled, but we expect that there will be a December release. Staff has evaluated state-developed web-based tools for mapping and estimating regional vulnerability across the state using demographics and projected data. Our initial understanding and applicability of these tools, it looks like they appear to miss the details needed to understand local conditions and essentially assign broad strokes of risk based on the rural nature of our county. We need local knowledge and participation to develop a quality assessment and develop a quality plan to protect our community. DEH has developed a questionnaire for state small water system operators and domestic well owners to assess actual risk and vulnerability across our county, and that will be released after the guidebook is complete and plan development has started. Harmful algal blooms are present across the state. The presence of cyanobacteria has previously been confirmed within Humboldt County. When water quality conditions are suitable, cyanobacteria concentrations increase, and some species produce toxin that present a risk to humans and their pets. In previous years, blooms have been observed in the South Fork of the Eel, the Van Dusen River, Trinity River, and the Klamath River. This year, there was heightened concerns about toxins found in Big Lagoon. Sampling results were shared with environmental health and included 3 consecutive sampling events this summer in which microcystin concentrations, that's a type of cyanobacteria toxin, were near or above danger trigger levels at multiple locations in Big Lagoon. Staff of DEH posted advisories following the recommendations of the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board to inform would-be bathers and families with children and pets of the potential risks. The harmful algal bloom advisory for Big Lagoon has since been lifted after water quality results from recent sampling showed the toxin concentrations below health advisory levels. Typically, cyanobacteria or harmful algal bloom warnings come out in the summer and coincide with low flows and sustained high temperatures, which likely contribute to cyanobacteria. As the weather and water cool down in the late fall and winter months, the blooms are less likely to occur. It's anticipated that harmful algal blooms will increase in intensity, frequency, and duration with climate change, and especially in drought years. As elevated concentrations of nutrients in our surface waters increase the suitability for cyanobacteria, individuals living near these waters or their tributaries can help reduce the potential by properly maintaining their septic systems or limiting the use of fertilizers. And although it's unlikely that we'll observe any algal blooms as we roll into fall and winter, environmental health staff are always happy to provide information and give updates regarding blooms that are occurring in our county. That's the end of my report. I think John Ford is going to have some.
There's just one thing I want to piggyback off of what Mario stated. In our previous report, we discussed bringing together a stakeholder or partner committee. We've decided to kind of put a hold on that until receiving the guidance from DWR, not wanting to establish a process that we may then have to pivot or abandon pending state guidance. So that is something that we looked into. And pending the work that Mario and his team are doing and waiting for that DWR guidance, we'll be picking that back up likely next month once we receive that state document.
Please.
John Ford, Planning and Building. I'll be extremely brief. I just wanted to update you. We are going to be bringing, and I hope it's on November 29th, a proposal to do the groundwater studies that we've been talking about for a while, looking at wells. We're refining that right now, and it will be a 2-year study, so it's not a magic pill. It's not going to give us immediate results, but it will give us a comprehensive look at the impact of groundwater. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I have Supervisor Madrone and then Bushnell, and if you're listening and you want to comment on this, press *9 to raise your hand. There were 2 on and then they bumped off, so I didn't know if they wanted to come back. Yes.
6 months sounds very reasonable to be coming back monthly, and the layering of detail is not really site-specific. So I agree with all of those observations and recommendations. One of the interesting things about rainfall is that timing and intensity matter. So, for example, this last year's rain, which the water year goes from October 1st through September 30th, not a calendar year, but it's actually the water year. So October 1st is your hydrologic new year. And it's actually pretty nice for us because it really does kind of start out the rainy season. It's not so true for the southeast of this country or other places. But hey, we're lucky that the hydrologic new year actually lines up with our weather patterns. But the amount of rainfall we got last year was pretty similar to what we got the year before. The year before, all of the streams were going dry because it was a dry spring, right? Whereas this last year, we had a really wet spring, especially late spring, and a wet early summer. It was raining up until July, and the grass was still growing. It came just in time to keep the grass growing, frankly. So timing matters, and when we're looking at these details, that's important, but also intensity. You can have 50 inches of rainfall in one year and 50 inches in another year, but if those 50 inches in one year came in 20 days of rain, and this one came in 100 days of rain, the 100 days of rain means lower intensity of rainfall and better infiltration and better recharge of groundwater. So those things really matter, and I look forward to being able to kind of get into some of that more micro detail about what's really going on here in Humboldt County as your drought task force moves forward and getting that more granulated data, that kind of shows us those things. Because I think once we started seeing those late spring rains and early summer, there was a lot of relief, I know, for small water systems and others that the summer before they were getting to the point where they had to initiate stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 alerts, like in Redway and many other places. So timing and intensity matter. There's also a lot of work going on being supported by grants from the state for distributed water storage, because often when we think of water storage, we think of municipal storage. But that puts a big burden on those municipalities. Whereas if we have grant programs to help landowners, even in urban areas, put in a 5,000-gallon tank, which is really just a 10 by 10 foot space, collecting rainwater from the roof, that can be a huge piece of our drought resiliency, our fire protection, water your lawn or your garden in the summer because you've got this storage. You can even collect fog drip, frankly, in these systems. So, and we've heard this a lot during the cannabis discussions that a lot of people, organic food farmers, for instance, are like, well, where's my grants for water storage, right? So this is something we've had some discussions with our legislative reps. I believe it's in our legislative platform. If not, I'm going to be looking for that when it comes to us as a draft, that we're going to incentivize, distributed storage, because that doesn't put a burden on the government. The landowner takes care of that, but it benefits the whole neighborhood, the whole community. I think waterless toilets are a piece of the puzzle in drought in terms of limited water, and I'd like to see us go even further with that. And I believe that John Ford and his staff are going to be bringing back a report to us on AOB and safe homes programs. And I would love for you, Mario, and DEH to be involved in regards to waterless toilets in particular, and what that might mean for housing opportunities, as well as reduction of 7 gallons of water going down every time you flush it, right? Precious, precious water. Also, there is currently some waivers of property tax for water storage, but it's a limited law. It basically says it has to be water from a hard surface into a tank. So in other words, if you're collecting water in ponds like ranchers have been doing for 100 years, the original storage and forbearance kings and queens of Humboldt County, you don't get any property tax reduction for that. It's considered a property tax improvement if you go putting in a new pond. And frankly, ponds can store a lot more water per dollar spent in storage than tanks ever will. Tanks are really vulnerable in a fire, whereas ponds are not. So not only do ponds provide agricultural water for grazing and such, and other wildlife, but they provide incredible water storage. But right now they're taxed as a property improvement. So we're working with our legislative reps, and again, I'm looking for this in the platform, that we basically want to expand that existing law, and Supervisor Bushnell and I have met with a number of people, and regardless of this, and we're going to keep pushing for this, I know, because it makes sense to have property tax improvement waivers for all kinds of water storage, including ponds, and stewardship tax credits, which I've talked about before. But thank you for your report, and appreciate you wanting to get down into the details even more in the future. Thank you.
Supervisor Bushnell?
Yeah, thank you. So, Ryan, I think it'll still come back every month to update the drought emergency, but it'll be on consent, correct?
Correct. So this is kind of an odd one. So the state requires that we re-ratify every 60 days, and we have a county code that requires it every 30 days. This is something that I would like to change. So at a future date, I inherited this. At a future date, I'd like to bring back that change to county code so we can have that be every 60 days.
We can't do that today?
It has to come to
No.
the
It would have to come back as a separate item.
Because, we already did that on consent. We should have pulled that off consent and changed it, because it was on consent today. Yeah. Thank you for that, and I concur that it should come back. But I did have a question around wells. So Mario, the type of stuff you're talking about is for agricultural wells or domestic or all?
The 552 plan is intended to address state smalls, which are water systems that have 5 to 14 connections.
Okay.
And domestic wells for
Oh, those are
private
domestic.
residences.
Okay. Thank you for that. I'm wondering if through the county that is there, I know that we only had 2 reported dry wells in the last 2 years, and I'm wondering if there's any way that we could encourage or reach out, because I don't think that's accurate, to see if we can get any updated data between now and the 6 months.
Yeah, I'm totally agree with your assessment. I think we're not seeing the whole picture. There's wells that are going dry which go unreported, and I'm not sure how to get that detail.
Well, maybe my suggestion possibly could be a press release that you report that. Or I know that possibly Director Ford can do some stuff through his wells, through what he does. So I'm asking this task force in between now and the next 6 months to try to accomplish that when you come back with the report. And I don't think that needs to be a motion. I'm just suggesting, please.
No, I appreciate the suggestion.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Supervisor Madrone?
On the cyanobacteria, I very much appreciate the work of DEH in trying to keep our community safe. But as you know, there was some controversy around kayaking in particular. And, you know, when we put out these really broad notices, number one, it's important to educate and inform the community. But kayaking has such a limited opportunity for ingesting. And I know it can happen just through skin contact, but it's pretty darn rare that anybody's ever gotten sick unless they truly were ingesting it, like children or dogs, literally gulping up the water and ingesting it at some level. So I'm just hoping that we might be able to have a little finer brush on that, in that, I mean, I know a lot of people who felt totally fine with kayaking in Big Lagoon, even though there was the warnings, because in kayaking, you have very little chance for that ingestion opportunity. In fact, I will swim in rivers where there's warnings, but I know enough to not go into the eddies where all this stuff's accumulating in the corners. You stay in circulating areas, you know, because if we just start shutting it down and aren't educating people really clearly on what the hazards is, it can affect businesses, as you know, in a dramatic way, especially a kayaking business. So I just hope that we can have a little finer brush on that and educate people. But, you know, if you're not swimming it and gulping it up and you're being safe, you're probably okay. So just a thought. We've had a lot of communications about this. Thank you, Mario. I appreciate what you've been doing.
Yes, Mario.
And through the chair, thanks for that. I appreciate those concerns. And I had the same concerns when getting the recommendation from the regional board. What are the risks associated with kayaking, which seems to be removed from that exposure? And so I reached out to the regional board and the professionals and experts that work all the time on these issues. And they, through toxicological studies, reassured me that there is a risk. And people have a variety of sensitivities. Not everyone has the same sensitivity to toxins in the water, and not every situation that is foreseeable. Perhaps the wind comes up and you get flipped in your boat, and now you're ingesting amounts of water that you didn't anticipate. Other risk factors are that populations of these cyanobacteria can increase without notice and not visibly detected. So you have pelagic species that live in the water column that are not visibly observable. And what we find through the monitoring results that are shared with us is that they're moment in time observations of these concentrations of toxins, and those toxins can dissipate and reemerge, but we're just getting a snapshot. But when we have 3 consecutive sampling events, which are at or exceedance of dangerous thresholds, then that's suggesting something, and we need to be cautious. And as a public health branch program, we need to ensure that our community is informed of the risks. And children and pets are at greater risks of exposure and can suffer the consequences, and we don't want to have that.
Has there ever been a death recorded related to kayaking exposure?
Not that I know of.
I totally appreciate what you're saying, that, you know, there are risks no matter what. You could dump out into the water, all those kinds of things. But there's risks just going swimming in the river, you know, that we all take all kinds of risks all the time. And it's just something that people, you know, need to be making their own choices about.
Right.
I appreciate your effort on it, Mario.
And I think to clarify, I don't think there have been human deaths related to kayaking. Dog deaths we have observed, and our community has suffered. Families have lost dogs after swimming in Big Lagoon.
Supervisor Bushnell? No. Ready to vote? And I do believe it came up on the thing, so.
Right, but Supervisor Bohn is gone and Michelle. Supervisor.
I finally got it.
Bushnell is, I know.
Okay.
Supervisor Bohn's out. Supervisor Bushnell?
Yes.
Supervisor Wilson?
C.
Supervisor Bass?
Yes.
Supervisor Madrone?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
All right, thank you for waiting with us all day, and hey, compared to the last 2 weeks, this is speedy.
We got 10 minutes, Ryan.
Yeah, so we are officially adjourned.